Cocoa.
Hello and welcome to the Saladcast on Thursday the 28th of December 2017. I'm your host Dan Jane. Join me today, Zachary Burgess.
It's a weird ship name.
And Robert Kemp.
It's spelled with K's.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that makes it...
Cocoa.
Was it supposed to be all coco?
Like the club in Camden.
Oh, what? K-O-K-O? Is that
Yeah.
how the Camden Club is?
It is indeed.
Cocoa!
So that probably means something, I guess.
But
Or is it just like a bird noise that's pronounced weirdly in like America? It's an American ship. Like, so it's the USS Cocoa.
USS Cocoa.
Or is it like, in American accent, is it like the sound an eagle makes or something? Or it's like, so like USS Caca!
Is it American? So it's a naval ship, is it?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh, that's a weird name.
Well,
for
most of the
USS doesn't necessarily mean Navy. It could just be like a transport vessel that they used in the Navy. It doesn't mean it's a warship, basically.
No, well, it sort of does. But a transport ship related to war and naval.
But not necessarily like, if you're thinking about a naval ship, you're just thinking like guns and
Yeah,
stuff. It's not
battleships.
necessarily like that.
USS Cocoa.
Oh, I got it wrong.
Okay.
Oh.
It's the Coca.
Coca? How's it spelled?
K-O-K-A.
Oh, right.
Coca. Okay. What kind of ship's
It's
it?
a Bagaduce class fleet tug.
There you go. It's a tug.
It's a tugboat. It's even
tug.
less military than a transport ship.
But it is military.
But it is Navy.
technically.
Yeah.
It's a
it
naval
is
tug.
Navy.
It's for tugging battleships.
I just like Bagaduce class. That's cool. Bagaduce!
Coca. So Coco and Coco with a C is the new Pixar film. Which why is it that, by the way, that now that everything comes out simultaneously, including TV shows to stop piracy, why is it that Pixar films come out like 6 months earlier in the US than here? Or moreover, why do they delay it when they're releasing it here? Like WALL-E came out like
that's still a
miles
thing?
before.
I thought that had stopped.
No, it's still a thing because Coco's not out and it's been out in America for a while now.
Oh.
Yeah, apparently it's really good. So looking forward to that. Anyway, by the way, guys,
Let's move on.
That doesn't seem... Well, I suppose it wouldn't, because if Inside Out was 6 months late here, then
Yeah.
I suppose it doesn't seem like it's taken them that long to put another film out.
yeah, well, Incredibles 2 is coming as well.
Ugh.
Do you not like The Incredibles?
I'm not a big fan of Pixar sequels.
You don't like the idea of two. That's
Well, it's been a long time, to be fair. Like, I'm sure they had an original idea for that one.
I mean, aren't they doing another Toy Story as well?
Oh, God,
And
yeah.
it's like they should have stopped.
They should have stopped after 3, for
Three,
sure.
Well, 3 was properly good, don't get me wrong. But
yeah, but you should just stop there.
you should just stop, yeah.
Yeah,
Do something new.
so let's hope they do.
Pixar are good when they're best when they do something new.
Well, that's where
Or-
Coco comes in, right?
yeah.
Or if you're going to do a new Toy Story, you have to just move to a completely new set of characters. Just new toys. Just make,
Yeah,
make
I
a new,
guess.
new
That's the only
setting,
way.
new theme,
Yeah.
Yeah, you
new
can't have
situation.
Tom Hanks and Tim Allen anymore. Get rid
Well,
of them.
it's going to have to be, right? Because like, that was the plot of Toy Story 3.
Yes.
That it was
Yeah.
like the toys were with some other kid now. Well, no, it was. I suppose it was all the old toys were with another kid, so they could do something about, it's the new kid. But they've sort of already done that, haven't they?
Kind of, yeah.
Pixar.
So this is the Saladcast, and this is our Game of the Year special.
This was the movie section that we
Yeah.
could never escape.
Yeah, we'll just get it out of the way.
Very important. Well, you guys haven't seen Star Wars, so can't talk about that.
That's lucky.
That's probably lucky.
Maybe that's tomorrow's job. No, he's looking at me. As if to say no.
Did you hear that, audience? Listeners.
Did you hear that Rob grabbed the mic?
The sound of mic adjustment. Oh dear. Yeah, so it's the end of the year, and it's time for our Game of the Year special, because every single games outlet and podcast has to do this.
Yep.
So we're doing it
We're contractually obliged by the internet.
by the contracts that we have not ever signed or printed out. Or
We're not going to get an exploding beard.
I was waiting. I heard it and I was like, oh, that sounds a bit wet. It sounds like there might be a phone coming up.
Oh, that was fun, really, listening to that sequence in last year's GOTY, where there's just the endless, like...
Rob getting
when I
screwed by
ta-
everything.
Yeah, even
The
when I take
podcast.
the beer out into the kitchen, and we can still hear it in for ages, just go...
So how well do you think you can tell how fizzy it's going to be from the sound of the initial fizz?
What, the initial ring pull?
Yeah, the initial ring pull fizz.
Well, that one just sounded a bit damp, which is usually a sign that there's already shit coming out of it.
You still call it a ring pull, even though they got rid of the pull part of ring pulls
You pull it.
before we were born.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are still called ring pulls.
You still pull it.
You still pull
I guess
up,
you pull
guess.
it, yeah. That's true. Yeah, but it's not like
More like
rip it out.
I guess it's more like a ring lever.
Ring lever, yeah. Genius design.
Anyway, let's
Game of the year.
get on with this, I guess.
Okay, step one.
Step one.
Bring out the categories.
Yep,
Robert, Maestro Robert.
Don't bring out all the categories, bring out the first category.
First category. Yeah, I'm not doing the housekeeping this year. We don't play everything. Suck it.
That's sufficient housekeeping.
Yeah. I suppose very few outlets must be able to play everything, right?
Yeah, but they talk about everything. We say no. We only talk about stuff that we cared to play.
Well, we do sometimes talk about stuff we did play, but not in
Yeah.
categories
if
that are relevant to having to experience it.
If it's highly notable for very well-known reasons.
Yes.
Let's put it that way. So, we have talked about, graphics, technical stuff, or aesthetic stuff when it's, games we haven't played because the actual game itself was bad.
Yes.
But it looked real nice, then you can still talk, like Battlefront.
Yep.
We had that conversation. Right. So, with all that usual stuff in mind, the first category is our Discovery Award. Our old Discovery Award, specifically. Right. So this used to be the would previously have been known as the 2016 Game of 2017.
Yeah.
But because we didn't actually play that many 2016 games that we missed from last year, I've expanded it out to games we've never played before, but discovered this year, to give them a little bit of limelight. When perhaps we may have shunned them. Foolishly. Like fools.
And your nominees for this category, Zach?
I don't think I played anything particularly new that wasn't a game of this year. Like something that I hadn't ever played before that also didn't come out this year.
So I've kept a list of based on what we tagged the Saladcast with.
Go ahead. What do we got?
So this is all the games. This isn't my best list. This is just a list of all the old stuff.
Okay.
Right.
So there are some crappers in here.
Yeah.
So Assassin's Creed 4.
Yep.
Creeper 3.
Okay.
Ark Eternal. Dead Core. Cubes. Lots of cubes.
Oh, right, yep. I remember what that game is now.
The video series helps with some of this, right?
Yes.
Enslaved. Odyssey to the West. The Fault.
Games.
Visual novel things.
Games.
Heroes of the Storm. I played this year.
Yeah.
Joe Danger 2. I played this year. Neko Para. Strike Suit 0. Director's Cut. Tekken Tag Tournament 2.
Randomly.
And some of Until Dawn.
Okay. How about next time we go through one of those lists, we just skip over the ones that you know are bad, and then we'll just start with the good ones.
It's sort of funny just to mention them sometimes. Just be like,
What do you like off there? Enslaved?
Yeah.
Enslaved
sounds like probably the best one.
Yeah.
Enslaved was good. I mean, it suffered from somewhat cruddy. The combat wasn't great, but it was mostly about the story and the quality of motion capture for a game of that age, and it was quite funny. It's got Andy Serkis in it. The late game story twist is pretty good.
Cool.
If not somewhat, I say it's a twist. It was somewhat expected, but it goes slightly darker than you sort of anticipate.
It's nice to have something original as well, or
Well,
the fact that it's
exactly
based
original.
on was it the
legend,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of stuff are. That's fine.
yeah.
It
It's almost indistinguishable, I suppose, from how you. I mean, it follows the same beats, I guess, but it's not
classic monkey.
Journey to the West, isn't it? The original story.
Assassin's Creed 4, I bounced off.
Yeah, I
really wanted
was
to
very
try
close
it.
to bouncing off it
Yeah.
at one point. It was way too long. The story makes very little sense this time round.
Everyone went on about the sea shanties and everything, and it's like, that's fine. But
The sea shanties are cool, but
Yeah.
and in fairness, some of the boat combat is cool, but even the
Yeah.
boat combat itself is quite shallow.
and the
not-
Assassin's Creediness is not the best Assassin's Creediness.
No, just mainly because of the environment, I think.
Exactly. It's not well suited to... The
Yeah.
whole point was, European cities and rooftops and things. Well, it doesn't have to be European. It could be...
I mean, it was interesting.
This is where I go into, what historical periods they should obviously do.
It was a little bit weird because none of the buildings are that tall in Assassin's Creed 4, right? It's not about tall buildings like it kind of was in some of Venice and some of the Italian series and even some of the original game. There was some tall-ass stuff on occasion. And
Yeah, exactly.
And there kind of isn't in this.
Because there wasn't.
Yeah.
Because it's the Caribbean and not, a built-up European city.
Yeah, and it also meant there was a lot more linear sections through the woods and things that they had to construct for story reasons.
Yeah.
and things like that. In some respect, like that stuff is actually kind of okay because it's like, oh, here's a set piece moment. We've built a set piece thing for it, so it works better. And it's like, okay, I can get behind that. But then when they make you retread the set piece area to do side quests, it's like, okay, that's less good.
Yeah, definitely. It's better to have for me, it's better to have an open world that's well constructed in an Assassin's Creed game than like linear sections.
Sounds like Origins is back on track on that front, but not one we covered this year.
No.
So I'll figure that out. I mean, Dead Core was okay about the cubes, but if you see what we did in the video, the rest of the game is that. It just gets harder.
Yeah, it's just more.
Yeah. So, kind of, not a lot to it. Take a Dag tournament. In terms of fighters, it's a real good fighter. Enjoy my time with that. I should probably go back and play some more, but part of me is like, I should really be playing fighting games on my fight stick, but I can't use my fight stick on my Xbone. Even though it's a 360 game, I'd have to then get the 360 out of the loft, and it's like, I don't really want to do that. So that's one of the reasons why I haven't played as much of it as perhaps I should, but it's really, really good. And there's tons of stuff in it. What else did we discover? Heroes of the Storm, surprisingly accessible MOBA.
I mean, it's insanely popular, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know that it is. Like, I don't know if Heroes is actually that...
It's probably...
It does all right for Blizzard, I think, but it's not like Overwatch level, and it's not...
Right, no. And it's not... What's the big one?
Well, it's not like Dota or League.
League is the big one.
Yeah.
Well, Heroes of the Storm had to be trying to steal people from the other two, so they're never going to get as big as it, because they were trying to interfere with a market that already existed, rather than
so they both tried...
their own...
Yeah, it's an interesting take on it, though, and it's a take that sort of appeals to me more, because they don't limit themselves to that one map formula, but then they simplify, although it's got tons and tons of heroes, as a game like that needs to, apparently, they simplify the mechanics of each, so they're a bit more understandable in how you would play them. There's no complications like couriers, there's no... there's just slightly less to worry about at all times, which is nice, because there's a lot to worry about in those games. But then their quirk is that there's tons of maps. Well, I say tons, there's quite a lot of maps, and most of the maps have a gimmick. And the gimmick is key to winning the game, so you're adjusting your strategy for the level. For instance, one of the Overwatch levels is almost literally a payload map, where you're pushing carts into holes, but both teams are doing it at the same time, a bit like Payload Race from TF2, but in a MOBA setting, and it works kind of well. I kind of enjoy it. I think actually Heroes of the Storm capitalising on Blizzard stuff as well, so, characters from StarCraft and Diablo and the Warcraft series, and increasingly more and more characters from Overwatch are being added to it, with abilities that translate really well, it has to be said. Like, Lucio is one of the characters I played the most of, and his Heroes of the Storm character feels a lot like the Overwatch character. Like, they've mapped their abilities really very impressively. I suppose Lucio was quite an easy one, despite the fact, because he's got area of effect healing just around him, so you just sort of wander around. But they've got that, sort of mix between do you want speed and healing. I don't know. I think it's well thought through. For a MOBA. But it's not Monday Night Combat. Just get that in there.
Cool. So the older game we were most impressed with this year, probably Enslaved?
Yeah, I think so.
Coolio.
I think if everyone's alright with that, just because... For
sure.
It's a nice window into how Ninja Theory got to where they are this year. A lot of what they were doing back then is still relevant to what they do now. So it was enlightening in that regard.
There you go. Enslaved, Odyssey to the West. Check it out if you have never played it. It's available on various platforms.
PC version on Steam is a good shout.
Probably about £2 at this very moment.
Yep, probably.
Check that out. Right.
And now I've moved it up the list. Based on some suggestions we had before it, but Most Forgotten is next, because it will make us remember stuff. Yeah. So we can talk about it later. Because I've only got 3 entries in this category.
Which seems to suggest that there probably are more.
Yeah. But I think the first one in here is a good one.
Okay.
For Honor.
Yeah, that would have been one that I said.
Yeah.
What was that?
Exactly.
Well, I don't know any of these games. So.
It was the
It was the Knights versus Samurai versus Vikings.
it was the Ubisoft
Melee fighting
multiplayer
game.
game. Yeah.
Right.
That came out in like February.
Yeah. It sort of came and went because there was some sort of.
Well, there was-
It felt like there was hype leading up to it, right? It's like, this is different, this is interesting, this visually looks quite impressive.
Yeah.
This could be quite a different experience. And then it came out and no one cared.
Well, apparently it was quite a different experience, but no one cared.
Yeah.
Also, there was some like mess up with Ubisoft servers and communities and patches. The classic problem of launching a game. They didn't handle it very well, the launch window area, so it kind of pushed people away, and then they were like, oh shit, we haven't got any population, so no one wants to play it because it takes so long to get in a match, and the matchmaking doesn't find you a good match because there's not enough people to match with. All those classic problems of low population.
Yeah. I think they had problems with having lots of modes at launch as well. Like, so it was, that problem became exacerbated. And so people were just picking between too many disparate playlists and they needed to be bundled together. Basically, they needed to take Splatoon and just say, look guys, there's only 2 playlists. Suck it up.
Yes.
So I've got that. Although my second selection has been getting a little bit of love in some of the other outlets' Game of the Year material, I had totally forgotten about the existence of Gravity Rush 2.
Yeah.
'Cause, again, very early release this year, I suppose, but fairly well received. And a game that looks really interesting to me. Like, both the first one and the second one look fascinating in terms of mechanics and how you play it. But yeah, I just sort of totally forgot that existed and was a thing. And controversially, I had that same problem with Persona 5 this year. I sort of kept forgetting that it was a thing until people mentioned it.
But have you played Persona?
I've never played any of them.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, the people that like Persona played the shit out of that, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, I've got friends who were obsessed with it.
I mean, this one's a very personal. I forgot it repeatedly, so I'm not expecting it to stick.
It's not your kind of thing, I don't think. Although I
I
don't know.
I think some of it is, but it's just I think there's a lot that I would like in Persona, but I'm terrified of its runtime.
It's going to take forever to play through that game.
It's enormous.
Yeah. It's for a certain... It's quite niche. But I think it seems like it went down well with Persona fans. Maybe not as good as Persona 4.
And I realise that in some respects that's also a hypocritical statement to make about it, given we've put about the same amount of time into Zelda that is Persona 5's runtime this year.
Yeah, but that's Zelda.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. Yeah.
So those are my 3. And I'm sure
Is this
I've
forgotten by us or like I don't know.
It's
forgotten in
both.
general. Because
Yeah.
I don't think Persona 5 is forgotten.
No.
No,
so I don't think
but it's
that's
just me.
the way.
I had that problem this year, so it's
Got any entries, Zach?
Well, you might argue it's another one we maybe didn't care about very much. What about Halo Wars 2? That came out this year,
I mean, it sort of did, yeah.
but no one cared. But I think that maybe makes it not very forgotten because not many people actually cared.
Not many people noticed.
That was made by Creative Assembly, though.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What about Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands?
Oh, wow, yeah.
Oh, well, that's a good one.
That's a good one. Because
Came
actually...
in and out pretty quick.
That actually had a good concept, and they mucked that up. That could have been
And
good
some
if they'd done
outlets
it right.
really enjoyed that. Like, I don't know, I think Easy
It's
Allies
lame.
were quite up on Wildlands. And
It was a good idea, but they totally went... Like, the fun thing about Tom Clancy games was they went a bit hardcore in the back in the day. Like, especially Ghost Recon.
Yeah, some of the original Tom Clancy's were proper hardcore.
So if they'd gone medium hardcore open world Ghost Recon, that would have been great. But
they sort of didn't.
No, they didn't. It's not hardcore.
They
at all.
basically made the
like-
Division in a different setting.
It's like more casual than freaking Far Cry, that game.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Anyway, so...
That's a good shout. I haven't even got it on my notable not played list. So it's
Super forgotten.
yeah.
Okay. We forgot about Ghost Recon.
What about Injustice 2?
No, I don't. I've had that. I know that's a thing. Yeah.
Okay. Robert sufficiently remembered.
Yeah. No, I think there was. It will come up a little later, actually, in some respects, because I think there was enough of a conversation around how some of that game was structured that it became At least in circles of podcasts and things we would listen to and pay attention. For me personally, I think there was enough of a conversation around Injustice 2 that it sticks with you a little bit. Even if it doesn't necessarily live up to some of the promise that the first game had in some ways.
Now, I know there's another category that we did one year, which we may be doing shortly, for most meh.
I have got a meh list as well.
And this one may fit into that as well, but what about Pyre?
That's definitely a meh. I wouldn't say that's forgotten.
So what do we got? What do we think?
It's forgotten in terms of people didn't like it as much as other super... Is it Super Giant or Super Massive?
Super Giant.
Super Giant. It definitely hasn't... Bastion was obviously a big deal. Transistor was a massive deal for many people. Pyre doesn't seem to have had that effect.
No.
Bastion was better.
So we'll come back to that one. That's a good pick.
Here's one that's maybe forgotten because what the hell even was it? Did we ever know? What about Matterfall? That came out this year. Good job.
That was another Housemarque. That was the other Housemarque game, right?
Yeah.
That got totally overshadowed by Nex Machina.
Yeah.
Because they sort of came out at the same time.
Yeah. It was just what? Because that was that weird... Because they showed it in that E3 trailer, and everyone was like, what the hell is this? And it looks weird, but maybe cool. What even is that? And then there was just nothing about it from that point onwards, and then it just came out. And it's well, I guess no one cared.
Yeah, I do remember there being more hype about that than there ended up actually being when it was released. Yeah, it's not a terrible shout. I can't remember what that game... I have no visual representation of that game in my head.
No. All I remember is the E3 trailer stuff, which is obviously not representative of the game in any way. Well, I mean, maybe it is, but not that much, I'm sure. It's a trailer.
I thought of another one.
Yeah?
Lawbreakers.
Yeah.
Because that was forgotten by that was just forgotten by the world. No one paid attention to it.
Breaking the law.
Maybe.
I mean, despite the fact I'd played the alpha and thought, this game seems alright. I don't care.
There's Knack 2 and Hob.
Knack 2, baby!
Knack 2 was only removed because of memes.
Because of Donkey. Yeah.
Knack 2's not forgotten. That comes up a lot.
Because of memes.
Yeah.
Because of memes, yeah.
And also, I would say... Hob is known for the wrong reasons, right? Hob is known because Runic were closed immediately afterwards.
I suppose, yes. That does kind of make you remember it a bit.
Yeah. It's not the right reason for it to be on a memorable list, because it kind of overshadows what that game actually was. A middling platformer-y adventure game, effectively, right?
Yeah,
right?
I guess so. I think that's probably it, unless you want to put something like Bubsy on there.
Oh no, I remember the Bubsy play.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, For Honor, I've actually forgotten what it was from the start of when we were talking about this just now, so...
But that's not... Ghost Recon's clearly more.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I think I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Although that...
And also, it sort of looks like PUBG, superficially.
Yeah, that kind of weird, slightly too saturated colour world,
soldiers
but
in
also brown.
Open world.
Colour and brown.
The next gen filter.
Yeah.
So, they've actually merged in.
And also, Ghost Recon this year is a lot like Rainbow Six Siege last year, whereas it had almost the same arc, where it's people were enthusiastic, and then no, not quite.
They need to get back to...
But Siege at least came back
True.
thanks to post support, and I have heard some people having that same experience with Wildlands.
Yeah.
As in, a few months down the line, they had patched it to the point where it was better enough that you could consider it in a positive light.
Yeah.
They might fix this situation, because, the old Ghost Recon was, depending on your point of view, too hardcore for consoles.
I didn't get on with it.
No,
I enjoyed it because of its hardcoreness in multiplayer.
Yeah, but...
Which was a very specific thing to set up in the old Xbox days.
But I don't want to be playing, what was it called? Operation Flashpoint on an Xbox, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas, Graw, that kind of 360 time, Rainbow Six Vegas, they got the balance right.
I think you're right.
And then, since then, they've gone too casual. So, get back to it, and...
But then I liked that they sort of added those semi-hardcore co-op modes in Graw, which there wasn't enough of because there was only 4 levels or something.
Yeah, but I mean...
But that stuff was great.
That was
we
cool.
had a good fun with that.
Graw was weirdly good. I played quite a lot of Graw, mysteriously, and it was weirdly good. Although if you played it now, it'd be super clunky.
Yeah.
But they'd fix that, like if they made a new one.
I tried playing through Graw.
Graw 2.
No, I didn't play any Graw 2, but I played through the first Graw nearly twice.
Yeah.
Because I did a hard mode run.
Yeah.
And I don't do that with a lot of games.
No, that game was mysteriously good. If you went back to it, it would look terrible.
I couldn't finish it because it was too hard.
Yeah.
but
Cool.
And its multiplayer was like, I don't know if you ever dug into Graw's multiplayer. It was surprisingly a lot like Counter-Strike in many ways, but with Graw movement mechanics, and also kind of worked.
So, most forgotten of the year is Ghost
Recon Wildlands, yeah. I think that's a good shout, because the moment you said it, it was just like, oh yeah!
Cool.
So now the slightly more important list, don't care.
The most meh. Most meh.
So Pyre, as we mentioned earlier, I think that's a pretty good shout on this list. But I've
Sonic Forces.
I put Sonic Forces in there.
Oh god.
Basically because I've put it in there, and I've also put it as a disappointment later, so we'll talk about that then. But because I don't know, I think it's amplified by the fact that Sega seemed to be going in the right direction, and then very clearly weren't at one point. So everyone's just like, eh. And actually, what happened was Sonic Mania came out, right? And when Sonic Mania came out, it just made everyone go, "Oh, that other game's going to be rubbish."
I don't think that it really counts for most meh, because as always with even with Sonic Mania happening, you have the automatic reaction to the Sonic games where it's like you have to be super cautious. So I'm not sure it's most meh. It's like it is meh, but I don't know about most meh.
We were prepared for how terrible it was.
Yeah, we were prepared for it to be bad and for us therefore not to get it.
I guess, yeah. Which is unusual for us, let's put it that way. A Sonic game came
Well, I'm
out,
sure at some point we will end up playing it and probably making videos.
I think Destiny 2 is a bit unfair. By all accounts, it's better than the first one, and we'd
But
probably
for
be more
us,
into it. We'd probably be more into it than we were. Don't you think?
I think,
bet if you got it, you would play it.
I think Destiny 2 would be more, and by the sound, has been more appealing to me than the first game. But not. I think as a collective, as the salad, Destiny 2, I think it's still, we just don't really care about it.
But again, I think that may not be a case of most meh. I think that might just be continuing meh. It's like we didn't really care about Destiny 1, so we haven't been made to care about Destiny 2.
We haven't been made hype.
Yeah.
I guess that's true.
Because they screwed it up from the beginning.
Because Halo Wars 2 turns up here as well, in my list.
Again, not sure how much meh that is.
No, you're right. Prey?
All units.
Yeah, all units.
Does it have all units?
Yeah, it does.
It does have all
okay.
units.
Well, that's not meh then.
No. That's all you need.
And it says all units.
Prey.
Seems to be a big deal to some people. And I don't
Is that a kind of game any of us would have liked at all anyway?
I don't know, because it's sort of Bioshocky, sort of System Shocky.
System Shock.
But then are we a bit meh on Bioshock as well? I'm not sure.
What do you mean? Infinite was alright.
Yeah, and
It's
the first two games were
Oh
alright.
yeah, no, they're good. They're good games. I agree. It's just I never got into them to the extent of a Deus Ex or something.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And
Yeah.
there was always something a little off about the Bioshocks in terms
For
of
me,
how
there
they
was.
felt.
Which other people don't agree. They think they're the
No.
best games ever, but I totally don't. And Infinite was one of those ones where everyone thought it was great, and then they realised that how shallow it was afterwards, or whatever, or and fucked up things in the story, the resistance leader being, what's her name, the leader of the Vox Populi, being evil after all, and it being being or whatever being a murder. It was all messed up.
If we want to talk about the storyline of Infinite, actually the realisation that most of it is pointless is actually kind of a bit of a drag.
Exactly.
As cool as I think that ending is, and I love the ending to Infinite. I'm
cool.
one of the positives on that ridiculous ending.
Yeah,
but
with all the
but it does make. It's one of those endings that makes me not ever want to play that game again in many ways, because it's like the quite lengthy run up to that moment is rendered mostly pointless.
Yeah. Anyway, don't need to talk about that.
Yeah, no. But I think Prey in so many ways feels like it would be that game to me.
Yeah.
Despite the fact, a lot of people say that actually, conceptually and narratively, it's doing some very clever things about making you ask... okay, spoiler alerts. I know, because I know some stuff about this. Even though I haven't played it. At the start of the game, it asks you a psychological test, that the game then basically makes you play those questions, but you're not really sort of aware of it, if you know what I mean. All the questions it asks you right at the start of the game are choices or actions you take through gameplay as it goes on, culminating in a final choice that at first smells like a dial-in ending, but is actually playing into all of those things that you've been doing throughout the course of the game, making you question what your original choices were. Except it's not explicitly spelt out like that, so I guess most players would just not see that side to it over the course of a fairly lengthy FPS, which is both interesting and possibly not executed as well as they hoped. But so there should be things for some of the I don't know, the narrative sides of us, the more intellectual sides of us three, could probably get into and be like, oh, I see what they're doing there. That's clever. But I still look at that game and go, I don't really want to have clunky combat with weird scribbles in space that can be mugs. Because they do that. They can be mugs and toilet paper and stuff. Toilet paper aliens. What else we got? South Park?
So is meh like things that we ought to care about, but in
but
we
kind
don't?
of. Yeah.
It's like South Park.
Because I'm sure there are a billion games that we could just put in this list to be like, oh no,
we literally don't know anything about.
Couldn't give two hits.
I mean, because we've got a disappointing category as well.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Because that
different.
That's not quite the same. Yeah.
Okay. Because obviously I'm meh about Mass Effect or whatever.
Because the disappointing character has games we do care about that ended up being bad. Is the difference, right?
Oh, I see. Whereas this is where we don't care at all.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Not enough.
But we're surprised
that
we don't care. Which is, it's not really a positive. It's not really a negative. It just hasn't really grabbed us for some reason. So South Park.
Yeah,
because we're kind of big on. I mean, both of us really enjoyed that last game, right?
I reckon that the
Stick of Truth was pretty great.
Additions to the new one look pretty good when I watch. To the additions to the mechanics, and I don't mind the new theme of the superheroes versus the fantasy. That's fine, and they've been building that up in the show as well. So I think it seems potentially interesting.
But why were you not enthusiastic as the first game?
Because it's more.
Yeah, I guess that's the problem.
Sequelitis.
Yeah, and also South Park in general is slightly saturated because it's gone on a long time at this point, and not everything is gold.
I guess, but that first game, I suppose. Oh well, yeah. Actually, maybe this leads into it. That first game was probably one of the first times they made something that was actually felt like the show.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
They finally made a game.
There's the novelty value of them making a game that was true to the show and fully
and as
involved.
funny as the show and referential from the first early days of the show. And I think that this is the trick here. The first game invokes, for fans of South Park, invokes a nostalgia of what it once was.
All of South Park, yeah.
Whereas the new one is more focused, from what I know, on more of the more recent plot lines.
That's true.
Which may not be as appealing.
No, because people have fallen off the show, so...
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not met on it, though.
Okay, that's fair enough. So that basically leaves Pyre.
Yeah.
Well, were we met
Pyre seems like a good candidate, because I liked Bastion.
I think that might win, but were we super met about, Forza 7? If you disregard the loot box controversy, was it we've had enough Forza at this point?
So, I was kind of hoping that would be good. But loot boxes aside, right? Because I've not Forza 5 was the last mainline Forza game I picked up and played. So I thought I was kind of in the mood for one. And then 7 happened.
And then you didn't care.
Yeah.
So maybe it does fit in this category then.
Maybe. But I think I don't care for very specific reasons, which means I sort of care. You see what I mean? I don't care because the loot box stuff kind of ruined it, right? It's the actual... what it is frustrating. And that implies a level of...
caring.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, underneath, that driving model is still great, right? How the cars actually drive, how the stuff goes, but it's the structure around it that has supposedly ruined it. So I would almost put that into a disappointing state.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. So any more ideas for that?
No, I think we got our list.
Do I want to bring up Shadow of War this early? Because you were... No, you didn't get on with Mordor, did you?
No.
I bounced off
Yeah.
Mordor.
I don't think anyone was infused about that.
Right.
I think I was hypersensitive as well to like them
The lore
fucking with
side.
the lore, and apparently this one has absolutely gone potty with the lore. So I definitely don't want to, because that will annoy me so much. I don't want to go near that.
Okay, let's throw out some other random names just to see if they stick here. Do I want to put PUBG in at this point?
For what? Meh?
For don't care.
I don't know. Do we not care?
Because despite it possibly being one of the best games of the year to some people, I don't think I'm not sure I want to play it. Not because I dislike it. I'm just not sure it's interesting enough, or...
Yeah, that could be a meh.
Surprised you haven't given it a try, Zach.
Well, we can just throw the Overwatch argument in at this point, can't we?
Well, you did try Overwatch.
I guess, yeah.
Wow.
For free, I suppose there's a buy-in with PUBG. You can't...
I suppose. Well, I guess there would have been even in the earlier phases.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I see the appeal of the Battle Royale thing in general. I think that's the actual problem with that game type.
Because my first impressions of Fortnite Battle Royale that I played last night... Yeah. But I don't know if that's a reflection on Fortnite or if it's a reflection on the format. I don't know. I don't know.
It seems like it doesn't... I mean, that's not necessarily to talk about it in this category, but like seems like really the only reason it became a big thing to like all other sites doing their game of the year and stuff is it was the same situation that people complained about when like Mario Maker was getting game of the year stuff, where it's like you only think it's that good because you have a community to do things with and stream to, and like if you're playing that by yourself, it's maybe not as good, but it's still good.
I see what you mean. So for those that engage the community, for instance, that adds such an amount to it that it elevates it above the quality of the actual mechanics underneath.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, there's something to that. There's an argument to that, right? People can make a game, right? And they can break a game if a community is too toxic.
I mean, that is
could put you
basically
right off
what
the game,
made
no matter how good the game
PUBG that popular, was
Yeah.
the streamers.
Yeah.
It's like freaking Rick and Morty fans ruining Rick and Morty.
Yep.
Bastards.
Except the opposite.
What, you mean Rick and Morty ruining the fans?
No, I meant the fans making the game more popular rather than less popular.
I guess, yeah. So there's that. Does Mass Effect land here? Because the reason why I'm raising that now is because I'm not sure it fits in disappointing because of the pure fact that we all called that it was going to be bad.
Well, I think the Mass Effect must be like a transitional one. It was disappointing to start with, and then, no, it was kind of meh to start with, and then became disappointing. Like,
That's true.
We've always
Because when
suspected.
it came out, there was a moment of like, oh shit, what
This
if it's
looks like Mass
good?
Effect.
Yeah. Like there was a trailer where it was like, like if there was a good Mass Effect game, even though this plot seems ludicrous, I could probably get on board.
As soon as there was the plot, as soon as you knew anything about the plot, that was when you started to think meh. Because it was like, they're doing this awkward way to reboot the thing.
Reboot, yeah.
It's like, that
We heard that
like,
quite early on,
yeah.
didn't we? And we were like, that's a bad idea. And then
That was where the mess started setting in, and then once it actually got close to being released and you started to see what it was like, and that was where the disappointment happened.
Alright, well, let's come back to that one then. I think that does it for me, actually.
Yeah, probably.
seems like Pyre was a good candidate.
Yeah.
Especially given how much we like Bastion and Transistor.
How much we're a fan of that studio in general.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I love their style, I love the narration style. I like the ideas of Pyre a lot.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if at least one of us plays it at some point when it gets cheap.
That classic problem.
When you get to pee in the Steam list.
Yeah.
So yeah, Pyre, our most unfortunate, also
Most meh.
most meh, yeah, for some reason. I think I'm going to change my ordering slightly, and because we covered some of it then, let's just get disappointing out of the way.
Let's do all the negative stuff.
I know, but like because we've sort of already touched on it, I think it's probably a good idea to keep that conversation going.
Okay.
So let's open with Mass Effect. Let's expand on that.
Do we need to expand on that?
Everyone
knows the situation with Mass Effect, don't they?
Yeah, people know. But
it's more that what was once a symbol of the quality titles that BioWare.
Well, it was BioWare's flagship.
Well,
game.
yeah, but it was a combination of everything they'd done before, right? BioWare were known to be great thanks to KOTOR.
Yeah.
And, every game they made after KOTOR was, in many ways, great. KOTOR 2, sort of wasn't BioWare directly, but,
Obsidian.
Yeah. But, Jade Empire.
Yeah.
Good game.
And that was all leading up to Mass Effect. And then that trilogy was pretty good.
Yeah.
Mass Effect 2 especially, of course.
It was
our game of the year for 2011 or whatever that was.
Whatever that year that was.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you know what I mean? It felt like BioWare hitting their stride to do exactly what they do and be the best at it. Mass Effect Andromeda comes along and has, in theory, all the hallmarks of that last game.
We knew it. We saw it coming. Because we knew that...
But launches in a horrific, buggy mess.
We knew BioWare isn't the same
BioWare
thing anymore.
Yeah.
And they're an EA machine who's been, and they said you've got to use the Frostbite engine, which is fine, but they just they really awkwardly that's the thing that it's like. Do you think there's a good way to do more Mass Effect after Mass Effect 3, or do you think there's?
We always said that was the fundamental mistake they made, was to try and invent a reboot mechanism.
Thing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Mass Effect is. I think the universe of Mass Effect is rich enough that they could have done more things with it. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm not against the idea of them having another game or another trilogy or something, some other take on that universe. Maybe not the same game even. Maybe they go spin off something else, but just use the Mass Effect universe.
Yeah.
I'm in no way against that. The way that what they chose to do as a story, seems a bit odd. Traveling. Okay, someone try and remind me what it was, because I just remember.
Well, the idea was
that daddy issues immediately again. Just one of my bugbears about narratives is just it's always daddy issues, because you're someone going across the galaxy to try and figure out what your dad had done in this other part of the.
I don't know if you call that daddy issues. It was more like trying to find your family.
What was that crappy Spectre replacement? Pathfinder. He's a Pathfinder. Oh, great.
With a computer in my head.
Or sometimes in your head.
Sometimes in your head, okay.
Oh, dear. Sad times.
With unending stares and tired faces.
Yep, your face is real tired.
That might be my best praise of the year. My face is tired. Oh, boy.
That was what I found playing through the start of Mass Effect 2 again. It's even if the face is a bit wooden, it's the acting or whatever in the radio play that you're listening to is pretty good. The
vocal acting.
Yeah, the vocal acting, and that just didn't seem the case for this one.
Nope.
At all.
Well, you only have to look at some of the scenes from the opening in how exaggerated and weird the facial expressions are of Shepard waking up.
Well,
and I know that's partly... Oh, not Shepard, yeah, whoever that is.
Yeah.
Riker or something like that, or
the real problem that
R.
Andromeda had with the faces was when they tried to make just faces with no voice. When they were just trying to express silently, that was when it was the most obvious of how terrible it was. Because just look at this face making weird faces.
Don't get me wrong, they have an uphill struggle, right? If you're going to put a face generator in your game, having it so that animates to the best quality. I know they've done it before, but if you're going to ever take a model like that, it's never going to compare to the best of the best, right? It's not going to be.
Doesn't need to.
It's not going to be Uncharted level elevation.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't need to be though. It just needs to be enough to make you not think about it. That's all you need. Even if that means going for a more stylized graphical style, just to make the game work, rather than going for ultra frostbite. Everything looks exactly like Star Wars or whatever.
And let's also not forget Mass Effect suffers from one of those bullshot trailer effect. As in, they put a trailer out that looked way better than the final game at one point, that there was a cutscene that made it into the final game that is shot for shot the same as what the trailer was showing, but the graphical fidelity had been downgraded so much from that thing that and it's kind of that's not a good look in the wake of the games that watch this generation of games have done that too frequently for a lot of people, like Watch Dogs and Aliens and with the big two, and this did it as well. It's like, hey, we got this right, and then we somehow broke it for the final game.
They didn't do it as badly, though.
No. It's
Mass Effect, it was like just a couple of scenes, and it was not actually much content in that trailer anyway, really.
There was not a lot. The thing is, there was not a lot in the trailers that, in a game of that size, I suppose, they didn't actually put out that many trailers, did they, really? So there's that. Bit of a bummer for a series we all like. Speaking of series as we like that were a bit of a bummer, Dirt 4.
Yep.
Talk to me about Dirt 4, Zach.
The problem with Dirt 4 was that they made Dirt Rally, and that's pretty awesome.
Pretty great. Yeah.
They somehow pulled that off, and in a very weird, unusual style for Codemasters, I guess. Early access and weird
a shadow drop early access.
Yeah, and actually updating in a way that the community wanted them to, actually listening to feedback and and then all the wheel doing all the effort to make people's wheels work, a whole shit ton of different wheels. They actually cared for a minute.
For a hot second, it felt like the Codemasters of old was back.
But then when they came to Dirt 4, they gave themselves a perfect opportunity, a perfect excuse for combining the previous Dirt 3 stuff with Dirt Rally stuff by having the very precise distinction between casual and simulation mode. But when they did that, somehow they actually managed to make the simulation mode worse, when you would have thought they would have just taken what was in Dirt Rally and made that better. But instead they somehow made it actually worse. So all the people who liked the Dirt Rally simulation got pissed off. And then when you actually looked at the game, it was it had good ideas, but they just didn't execute very well in general. It's the random track generator was a really good idea.
That should definitely come back. They should work on that and make that stronger.
But it was so first generation of that idea. It was this just isn't actually as good as you want it to be.
Right. Yeah.
Handcrafted tracks would have been way nicer in specific ways that Rally needs them to be. The way that all the randomly generated track generator pieces, the road is basically always the same width. And it's just just feels really wrong when you're doing the Rally. It's you need bits that are tighter and bits that are wider, even though in Rally it's all tight, but
as we
comparatively tighter and wider.
Yeah, and as we talked about it before, it's even if you have a set number of pieces that describe the road and just the road,
the scenery
around it needs to have variance on those, and that hides. In many ways, that hides the fact that they're using pieces, right? If the tree isn't where it is, sometimes you can't have the same visual reference for. Oh, here comes that piece. I know when to turn it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's basically like a track generator of old, right? They've made a track generator but made it so it sticks the pieces together randomly.
Yeah.
Needs work. But I love the idea. It's where Rally should go. It's where these games should. It's the direction these games should take for sure.
Yeah.
But it's not there. It's not there.
And the fact that they gave themselves that out and they still fucked up the simulation. It was the things that were better in the Dirt 4 simulation were the things that you wanted to be better. The weight of the cars felt a lot better in Dirt 4. When you flipped or rolled or crashed into things, it felt better.
That's good, because that's one of my major problems with Rally.
But the overall simulation was just worse. And it's probably that was why. They made the weight better, but they couldn't reconcile that with the Dirt Rally simulation to make it work in the same way.
That there was some accidental side effect of their centre of gravity or whatever it is that made that feel wrong.
Because in Dirt Rally, I think
makes the handling. They changed that part, but then they would have had to adjust everything about the handling model to make the change in weight work. Yeah, and they didn't.
Because it's in Dirt Rally, the reason it feels as good as it does even though when you crash, you realise the weight of the cars is retarded.
Yeah.
The reason it feels as good as it does in Dirt Rally is because they had the downforce compensating for the weight, essentially. Like the aerodynamic downforce effect of the cars compensates for the weight, which is why it feels great when you're on the ground driving along, but as soon as your wheels come off the ground, it feels completely wrong.
Yeah.
So maybe they couldn't. Maybe when they tried to fit like actual weight physics into it, it just didn't combine well or something. Who knows? I also thought it was weird when they were before Dirt 4 came out. There was a few trailers and whatnot, and they had like their regular like let's bring in Nicky Griss and some other rally drivers or whatever to big up the game or whatever. And you know, I mean, at some point you're paying people to say things, but why did they like it so much?
It's also like I know we did a quick video of it, and I think I said at the time that at least compared to Dirt Rally, it's got some of that Codemasters flair that was missing from Dirt Rally in terms of presentation.
It's more like an actual game rather than just a tech demo.
But it's still not Codemasters' best on that front either. It feels a little more half baked than the all-out presentation of Dirt 2, which is still my personal fave.
Yeah, but they didn't have Dirt 2...
Or even Dirt 1. Dirt 1's crazy arrows.
Dirt 2 benefits from having an opportunity to be more crazy. It's like more crazy, but not like Dirt 3 crazy.
Dirt 3's... I can see the effort that was put into Dirt 3. I just didn't like that aesthetic as much.
No.
But, you know, it's evident that they put the work in, right, to present it to all hell.
But Dirt 4 was just meant to be like Dirt Rally, but as if it was an actual game.
Yeah,
it was like nice, fancied up enough to be like these menus are actually functional
and to sell a little better on console.
Yeah,
effectively.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
What else?
Do we want to talk about Formula Fusion? Or do I want to talk about Formula Fusion? More than the point. What a fall from grace for Studio Liverpool developers.
I think that's maybe a bit too of a deep, knowledge for your disappointment.
I know, because it's a bit... The thing is, it's proper disappointing for me, because, it's old Studio Liverpool devs making a Wipeout-style game. It should have been good. And in some ways, the pitch was that they were going back to some of the original vision for Wipeout, which is to make it more like a future sport, make it more, hence the name, a bit like Formula 1 in some ways. And, I don't quite know what that means, but whatever. Have ship customization, have interesting tracks, have slightly tighter handling, slightly less floaty handling, some of which came to pass. But I also know that studio had a lot of trouble during the dev cycle. They had a problem with investment running out or being pulled halfway through the dev cycle. So I assume at some point they had to severely downsize what they were making.
And it's noticeable.
The end result feels unfinished. Just not good. You put it next to last year's Redout, which was made by a completely unknown studio. I don't know, I can't even remember their name, Rule 34 or something.
Probably not.
Probably not that. But it was a number of some description. And while that game didn't necessarily make the best first impression on me, Redout really grew on me and became, I thought it was a very solid anti-grav racer by the end of playing it. To the point where I 100%ed it, like its original campaign, anyway, before they started DLCing it. I don't ever want to play Formula Fusion again. It just kind of blows. And the super cheaty last races against the Beast, I have no idea how you're supposed to do. That guy moves way faster than humanly possible. And, then again, it might actually be possible, but those tracks are so fast and actually overly twisty for the speed you're driving at that they're just no fun to get around.
It's the fact that, literally the AI can't handle it. That's what makes that whole thing so stupid.
There's one part of one of the tracks that the AI can't handle because it's travelling too fast and constantly crashes, and that is the only way you can win that race is because the AI balls it up.
Yeah.
He drives way faster than you can the rest of the time. And then you've got 2 more races of that to do in that championship, which you can't do because the AI doesn't balls up. It's just a real bummer for me, personally, because I had high hopes. I really did. And it sucks. So yeah, Form Fusion, bit of real bummer for me. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, we had a passing interest in.
Yeah, again, like how we were talking about with the mech category, it's like I don't think that's a real disappointment. Like
It did start to go wrong. With Marvel vs.
we
Capcom.
noticed it, and we also we were only passingly interested in the previous games because it was weird. It was a one-off thing where we were like, "This is weird, let's try this." And it's like, this is quite fun its weirdness.
This is pretty great, yeah.
But we weren't really invested in the series or anything.
No.
Like Tekken, it's just like they're sometimes good games, but it's like we don't really care.
No, they're just fun to pick up and dick around with for a bit. That's my approach to fighting games in general, right? They're just fun to mech up. And I'm sure that's the same for quite a lot of people, right? They pick up a fighting game not because they actually want to get Street Fighter level skills.
Yes.
They just want to have a good time and mess up their mates a little bit.
Yeah.
And Marvel vs. Capcom 3, in particular, for us, was that. It's good fun. It's more fun when we know very little about what we're doing.
Yeah. You need to know
why the story mode in Infinite sounded like the draw this time, right? Because it's like, oh, they're doing that cool Neversoft thing that Neversoft do so well with... Oh, sorry, not Neversoft, NetherRealm. Do so well with the Mortal Kombat and Injustice games. So this would be a good reason to play this. But it's Marvel, and it'll be all crazy crossovers and jokes, because Capcom. It's rubbish. And no one likes the story part, and apparently it's the worst part of the game. And also they changed the visual style. I don't like the change in style.
Yeah.
Marvel vs. Capcom 3 nailed it. Why did they made it more bland? Ugh, what a disappointment. Ugh.
But still maybe not that much of a disappointment.
The good news is that the Ultimate Edition of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out on PC this year. So you can play that instead.
Good news.
Yeah. Joke entries. Ukulele. Just because, this was supposed to be the return to form for the
that's
for the Collectathon platform.
Was it most disappointing when you kind of could see it coming in that way?
I don't think anyone quite realised just how bland it turned out.
Sure.
I think they were like, "Oh, this is going to revive the good old days of Banjo-Kazooie," which I played Banjo, the first Banjo, not that long ago.
It seems more like this is the same situation as Formula Fusion, basically.
Mm.
It was the pedigree, and you were like, "Yeah, they can do it," but then they can't do it.
Even though Playtonic actually do have some of the key people from Banjo and Rare of old. So yeah, bit of a bummer. Just turns out to be kind of empty. Micro Machines World Series. Because in some ways this looked like it could have been a good Micro Machines game.
Okay, that was one reason where it was marginally more disappointing, was that it did seem like they were going back to how Micro Machines should have been, except then they didn't.
Yeah. In many ways they get close, which is the painful thing with this.
Yeah.
Because you can play that multiplayer mode in the classic way, and it's still good. Just not as good as V3.
But yeah, I still, again, not most disappointing.
No.
Somewhat disappointing.
Yeah. There was a semblance of hope there for a moment. Sonic Forces?
Same situation.
Yeah.
It's somewhat disappointing, but not most disappointing.
There was a semblance of hope from me, because it basically looked like Generations 2.
Yeah.
Right up to the point where I played it at EGX. And was like, the Sonic stuff seems good. The Avatar stuff seems really bad. Or the custom character, whatever you want to call it. Seems really bad. So that fell into the Sonic disappointment hole. Which we're quite...
Which is filling up at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty comfy place in there. There's the whole 3-piece suites made of discarded Sonic Boom discs. That's my list.
What are you feeling?
were we most disappointed by? I guess again, this is the same situation with the mech category, but I guess we weren't most disappointed by Battlefront 2 because we were already not in for Battlefront 1.
You know what? It is worth mentioning here, I think, actually, because I got, I think, a little bit more hype than I was expecting.
Well, it's because they said the right things at E3. They were like, it's going to be free DLC and we're going to have more content than the original game.
A story mode.
And a story mode.
That looked competent from the acting that they'd shown us.
I'm still most hyped for the Starfighter Assault mode. I think that looks actually quite fun. Still. And, like, I don't need all that DLC bullshit. So, like, it's not like I was ever going to, like, be grinding for that shit anyway, personally. Like, it's, like, fine. I mean, apart from the fact that it's play to win, which is stupid.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not even going that far into that hole just yet. But
like, I don't need the... I'll just fly an X-Wing. I don't need the, like, Super Millennium Falcon or something.
The Super Millennium
or whatever it is. I don't know. What do you pay for? What do you pay for with that shit? Just heroes and stuff.
Yeah, and power.
Well, the Millennium Falcon is like a hero.
That's what I mean.
A spaceship hero.
That's what I mean. It's like...
Yeah, there is that, and there are basically upgrades.
What is it? You can't play as Darth Vader or something. Whatever.
Not until you've bought him with loads of money.
That's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but for me, I don't really care. I'd rather no one could play as Darth Vader.
Oh yeah,
that would be better. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it counts. I think it hangs here just because I got that little bit hype about it, and it. I don't know, that E3 demo of them on Naboo, that didn't seem too bad. I got that battle.
It looks good. It looks fun.
I got that Battlefield vibe from it.
I mean, it's obviously always going to be simplified versus Battlefield.
Sure.
And there's always going to be Battlefield to play, so you might as well just play Battlefield, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, and that is part of the problem.
Yeah,
right?
But that's maybe you're not the, you're not the audience.
Well, I mean, that's why we said the same thing about Battlefront 1, where it's like, it's disappointing that the Star Wars-ness of it wasn't, like, didn't overcome, or not overcome, didn't make us enthusiastic enough about it. It's like, it's Star Wars, that should be the best thing.
Yeah.
It should be, like, if you just, it's a Battlefield mod with Star Wars stuff, and it's like, that should be great, but it's not.
It was. It's okay.
I mean,
this new one is okay in comparison with the slight complexity with some class stuff. Some
of the more fun. I only played the beta for the first Battlefront, and so I'm not exactly an expert on this. But the more fun modes were the ones that weren't inherently battlefieldy. They were the more sort of like, this is just an on-foot shootery thing. But, it was just very shallow. There wasn't a lot more to it than that. There wasn't really progression. There wasn't really... If you wanted to fly a ship, it seemed very random with your ability to fly it. Unlike in Battlefield, where it felt a little better because you had to run to the thing and get in it. The sort of floating icons on the map near the spawn to say you can get the thing. It's kind of the same thing, I know. It's like the plane's there or it's not, but there's just some disconnect between, now there's a Darth Vader icon hovering around. Now I can be Darth Vader if I get to it first. It's just something... It's weird. Wasn't the original Battlefronts just you played as the heroes all the time?
No.
Not what the Xbox ones. The original Xbox ones.
Oh. I don't know, actually. No, there must have been it would have been weird if it was sort of all heroes. Because
you could just play as a Jedi, like
as
your character.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't really remember a lot about those either.
I mean, it could potentially have been a mode even then, like how in Battlefront 1 it was the heroes mode where you just play as heroes.
Right.
And I said Battlefront 1 as in the previous Battlefront game.
Yeah, new Battlefront 1. Yeah. Any more?
No, I think that's probably most of them.
Okie dokie. So, how are you narrowing that one down? No idea. Is it Mass Effect because that's the only one we are collectively disappointed with?
Could be, yeah.
Because obviously, neither of you care as much about Forming Season as I do. Even though that is my biggest disappointment. That is my biggest disappointment of the year by a country mile. But...
I mean, as we said about Mass Effect, it's also the disappointment that they fucked up Mass Effect. It's not even just the disappointment of that one game.
Do you think it can't be ever re-rescued now? That's the end of Mass Effect.
Oh, what, you reckon they've broken the universe?
I mean, it could, but they'd have to do something really good. It couldn't just be an average game. It couldn't just be like... It could just be another Mass Effect 2. It has to be better than Mass Effect 2.
Holy crap.
A lot of people have been saying this is the call for EA to stop shoveling Frostbite everywhere. Because, like, both that and Need for Speed Payback apparently have some issues that can be traced back to the use of Frostbite, apparently.
It's not a problem with the engine, though. It's a problem with EA's way they make developers build games.
That's what I mean. They force them to use that engine, and like the Mass Effect team claimed that the Frostbite engine, when they got hold of it, just didn't have the animation capabilities to do what they needed to do.
Yeah.
So they've had to rebuild a whole load of stuff into an engine that's just not geared up for doing their style of character animation.
It's not just being forced to use the engine, it's being forced to use the engine and then having a ridiculous time constraint that doesn't let you adapt to using the engine.
True that.
Or if like EA did a thing more like Unreal and they had have people just making the engine essentially. If they had someone who was like, okay, for an upcoming game, we're going to need an animation engine that can do faces and stuff in Frostbite. So let me make that, and then that'll be a thing that's just part of the Frostbite engine from now on. And then you can give it to this team, and then they can use it.
True.
Or Dirt 4.
Dirt 4 was only disappointing for like half the people, I guess, because to everyone who didn't care about simulation, it was just another new Dirt game.
Yeah, and it has been fairly highly rated by
and also, in some
people.
ways, it was also, to those people, it was even more good because it wasn't like Showdown.
Right.
You were coming off of the bad games in between Dirt 3 and Dirt 4.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So not quite bad enough.
No.
Mass Effect was bad enough.
Yeah.
Mass Effect, most disappointing game of the year.
Yeah,
I think that's
sometimes.
agreed. Sorry, Mass Effect.
Not really sorry.
You had a Mass Effect,
Yeah.
and it was not the one you wanted.
I'm trying to remember the last
Mass
time
side
that,
effect.
when was the last time that, you had a trilogy of games by a developer, and then they basically started again, and it was just as good, if not better?
I don't know if that's ever happened.
No.
It's
It's always a bad idea.
You could argue that Halo nearly succeeded.
No.
They got very close. Closer than Mass Effect.
No. Reach was the offshoot game, and that was better than 4 for sure.
Well, it was, but it was still like that was still Bungie at that point.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, but they still made a new. It's the same situation with Mass Effect. Essentially, you've got a new developer to restart the trilogy.
Yeah,
But they failed way worse than Halo did.
made up of bits of the old developer that wanted to stay and work on the franchise, and bits of new people that they cobbled together.
See, these Halo conversations do rub me the wrong way a little bit, because I don't feel like 4 and 5 are bad games.
Well, that's what I just said.
Four is just
No, I'm just saying it.
4 is just a little bit narratively weak because of their choices around how to present the Didact and the Librarian.
Yeah. What other franchises have tried to do this, though? Do you just keep it going? Because
Gears of War, still unproven, I suppose.
Yeah,
Gears of War
that
4. Yeah. But it's hard to argue that that's better than the previous trilogy so far.
Yeah. But just as good as a sequel would have been anyway. Yeah. Anyway,
I suppose Call of Duty is on it's
Call of Duty doesn't really count, I think, because it's gone way past that now. It's gone into production line mode.
Well, yeah, but Call of Duty would be the perfect example, right?
Yeah.
Because if you think about Call of Duty 4 compared to the first 3,
that's true.
they definitely succeeded.
That's true. 4 as a reboot was brilliant.
I suppose it's hard to argue that Assassin's Creed has been as good as its first 4 entries.
No, it's not. Yeah.
Or at least not immediately. And they maybe started getting back there by
To be fair, Assassin's Creed 1 wasn't that good, so
No.
anyway.
But
It was just 2 and...
it was so original at the time that you gave it a pass.
Yeah. Trying to do something new.
Yeah, tricky one. I don't know. We'll have to come back to that another week. Moving on. What we got next? Oh, the best original music category. Happy times. Feel good.
Yeah. If we can think of anything that fits in here.
Now, this is always a slightly tricky category because I do suggest that we spend some time listening to some of this beforehand rather than just describing it.
It depends whether it was something that more than one of us didn't hear.
Because my first entry is Flint Hook, which neither of you will have listened to, despite the fact that it has some pretty good chiptune pirate music.
Well, just like chiptune pirate music is probably enough description.
Yeah, boy. It's quite it's got a good theme to it. There's a sort of like the way there's like what's the phrase they used to describe like recurring sequences.
Like a leitmotif type thing.
Motif, that's it. Yeah, but it's got some good catchy motifs that you hear in a number of places throughout the game. Some of those tunes get really stuck in my head sometimes. Like when I'm trying to sleep and I've just got the pirate shop music going, sort of just in my head constantly, and it's like I need to sleep now. I don't want to buy space meat. I mean, the music actually in Flint Hook might be its strongest element in that game. It has a really nice intro sequence where they do that sort of like old arcade cabinet thing where they're doing like it's got big fat bold text scrolling in the background while the character gears up.
All right.
Classic intro, and then when you see the person, when you see him, the music crescendos into the main chorus. It's quite well done. Just a good use of it. Fits tribute style well. Hover, Revolt of Gamers. It's not going to win because I think most of that I have listened to that soundtrack and most of it isn't that good. But it has got 2 Hideki Naganuma tracks on it that are pretty okay.
Okay, pretty okay. That's the best you can say for his track.
As in, I mean, they're not as good as old Jet Set Radio stuff.
Well, yeah,
but they're still Naganuma tracks, and you're like, okay. That's cool. Now onto some proper entries.
Okay.
Near Automata. How are we saying that? I keep saying Automata because everyone else has been saying it like that. Although my brain is, every time I say that, it goes, no, Automata.
Yeah, I would have said Automata.
Me too.
Otherwise he sounded like some kind of automatic tomato.
Automata.
Automata.
It serves itself. There's nothing quite like this soundtrack this year. And it's a sort of orchestral mix, a sort of wailing choral piece, a sort of chip music piece in places. And all of it is evolving as you play through the story. So like you'll hear the same music piece in the first playthrough, and then when you're playing it through the second time as a different character, it'll be the same music piece playing, but it'll be different for that character in subtle ways. Or you'll be going through a sequence where it's playing like the escape music, but like there's a bit with a cult of robots effectively that effectively decide that in order to become as gods they have to die. So they all start murdering each other and trying to murder you and throwing themselves in lava pits. And while this escape sequence is going on, the music has their chant. It's like the escape music, but it's got their chanting along in the background going, become as gods, become as gods. And it's just brilliant. And, with the moments where it needs to be important and you'll get like a proper standalone bit of music for the sequence that's nowhere else in the game. And what's also fairly excellent is the jukeboxes in the game where you can play all this take all of that into account. So you don't just pick the music track and it just plays a version of it. You can say, play this music, in this style. Yeah. It's like, play the drama version, or play the ambient version of this song as it fades in between the tracks, and you can listen to them all. And it's like, it's pretty great that the flexibility of its score has been exposed to you if you really want to dig into it. It's an impressive bit of work. Highly recommend a listen. Cheap shot entry, Site Mania.
Yep.
Gotta be mentioned, because, half that soundtrack is the original bloody games, just remastered to sound crisper than they've ever done before.
Slightly less than half, because even some, there's some new levels.
Yes.
So they had 2 new music.
But then even, like, the Act 2 of most zones is a remix of the original music, so it's like a rearrangement more than a new score. So I don't know if we...
But that's what you want. And it fits the game so perfectly, because the stage part 2 is exactly that in the level as well, in the level design.
A rearrangement and a reimagining, yeah. It's catchy as all hell, because it's Sonic music. And it's generally really good. And even though I had reservations about some of the new stages and some of the new themes, like Press Garden, I didn't get on with that the first time I played it. But that tune has grown on me and might be the one that has stuck in my head the most.
Yeah.
From the whole game. Not a big fan of that last zone in general and its music.
Well, I think
They went too epic.
Yeah, I said that at the time. It really does go too epic.
Yeah. But yeah, pretty great on the whole. We'd be remiss not to mention Splatoon 2, because holy cow, they put so much effort into that aesthetic in both this and the previous game. There's probably more in this game as well than the last one in terms of like sheer content of stuff they've had to put in it. I mean, just using it as a benchmark, the amount of musical content in Splatfest is exactly double what it was last time. Actually, probably more so. There's like 2 or 3 Splatfest battle musics, I think, now.
Yeah.
When there was only 1 in Splatoon 1, which got tedious real fast. And actually, in fairness to Splatfest music, like the battle musics this time are way better than they were the first time. But on everything else, I'm inclined to say that Splatoon 1's soundtrack was just that little bit tighter, just that little bit catchier. And there's a general disliking in the community of the new music they added. The sort of... because they went off the rails a little bit in their style. So there's some jazz fusion going on, and there's some country going on with, like, wailing violins, and people just going, oi, 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 in some bits. Like, it's a mighty eclectic soundtrack, but it's pretty great. And I went through the music jukebox in there the other day, and there's still tons of tracks apparently I've never heard.
I don't know where most of those even exist.
Yeah. What is that? So,
I mean, is that... like, could that possibly...
is that DLC that's on on-disc DLC?
Could that be a case where it's like they've already actually made all that and it just...
Well, I think that's what happened with the new music they released, right? And this was known to be true of Splatoon 1. The first wave of updates, the content for it was mostly already on the disc. Like, a lot of the first wave of maps and weapons they added were already there, and they just staggered the release of them. Possibly with the assumption that they hadn't quite finished it, and that they tuned it all up for release, or made some minor adjustments so the patch size was small, so they put what they had on the disc. Something like that. That's all a big assumption. The cynic in me says, oh, this was all just a ploy to make it look like they're doing updates, right? The Capcom play.
But for that to happen in Splatoon 2, but if they were going to do that in Splatoon 2, why would the music list be the one place where they expose it?
Yeah.
Like,
it is
there's
weird.
no reason to expose it if you're going to do it, just hide it fully.
Either that, or there's just stuff we've never seen. There's just secrets or something.
Or like some specific combination of level and mode at some point, or like high-ranked rank battles have different music or something.
Yeah, the league stuff might be different. For instance, we've not dealt with that, or yeah, who knows? It's expansive and great. Even if that music mode is actually surprisingly difficult for only having like 4 buttons.
Yeah.
Super Mario Odyssey.
Yep.
Jump with me. Grab coins with me. Oh yeah.
That song is... I preferred the second song.
I've only listened to it during the end sequence, so I don't really have a recollection of it.
You can't hear it as well.
Yeah.
Once I went back and listened to it, I was like, oh yeah, this song is actually quite good. It's
quite neat.
It seems weird
It's pretty good.
when you're doing the sequence and you're like, this song is telling me what to do, I guess. But then, when you actually go back, it's like, oh yeah, it's kind of cool.
It's yeah, I do need to go back and check that out more fully. It's neat that they added the I wasn't expecting them to add a music player in Mario.
That's cool.
Right? It's not something they normally do. It's not something Nintendo normally does in general, right?
There's quite a lot of stuff for Mario that they don't normally do.
Yeah, very true. And it's quite cool that you can stumble upon the Japanese version of that theme track.
Yeah.
Although, actually, this might be the one time where I think the English version is actually better.
Yeah, I think the Japanese woman who's seen it just doesn't... I mean, obviously we don't know Japanese, so there's no way we'd actually tell, but she just doesn't sound as good a singer.
No, I'm with you there. Doesn't sound quite as well performed. Yeah, so I don't... But other than its major highlights in music, and the nostalgic bits, and just the throwing those N64 songs straight back in there, I don't know if a lot of the world music really stands out, or a lot of the boss encounters, or, I remember the room music, the sort of ambient, like, puzzle rooms,
Yeah.
or the ice caves, sort of way more than I do the actual world musics most of the time. Like, I can remember the weird surf guitars of Wood Kingdom, whatever that place is called.
Yeah. That was cool, although it was kind of weird for a Mario game, but I guess that's true of everything in Mario.
And I can remember Sound Kingdom because we were playing it earlier today. But prior to playing it today, I probably couldn't have told you any more than that, other than the Jaxie music, which is awesome.
Yeah, there's nothing that's quite like the Bomb Battlefield level of going to be singing for years, literally.
Or even like the underwater theme from... the music in 64 is just so iconic. And I don't think, other than the main theme, I don't think Odyssey really matches that level. So it has the Splatoon problem in many ways, and all the music's good and fitting, but not as good as Ninty's prior work.
But they did do some good things with it as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
like doing the chip transitions.
8-bit versions.
Really good.
Yeah, good addition.
And I did like a couple of the boss fight musics. Like the stupid UFO fight. That's a pretty decent bit of...
It's interesting
it's
that
not exactly music, I guess. But...
No, but it's interesting that it's in that style at all in many ways.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, the was it the Centipede tank battle one from early New Donk is quite different as well.
And I didn't notice it the first time through when I was playing it, but like the weird version of the Wooded Kingdom theme when you capture a tank. It has its own version of the Wooded Kingdom theme, which like takes out the surf guitars and adds a weird like wharfy sound effect instead.
I didn't notice that.
I'm not sure it actually happens the first time you go through Wooded Kingdom. I think it's like if you go back, and then or it's used in it might be used in the boss fight where you're opening the big gate and you have to drive the tank up there with
the balls
down.
Yeah.
I think that might be where it happens and you just don't notice it because you're focused on doing the thing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of noise going on. You're like,
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check that.
And
revisit that as well.
And in terms of like, this was something that I saw pointed out in the comments somewhere, but in terms of effort, there's an 8-bit music version of the flying squid boss fight. Because you can theoretically go into the pipes underwater in Seaside Kingdom during that boss fight.
So,
not Seaside Kingdom. Yeah, that is Seaside.
Yeah, it's Seaside Kingdom. Yeah. Huh.
It's like that only exists because you can do it, but there's no reason to do it because you're fighting this boss.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. That's excessive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if they had one of those things they had other plans for or something, but they just, or it is like you say, they just looked at it and thought, well, you could do this. And then the 8-bit guy's like, all right, I'll put an arrangement together.
Because in the music player, you do unlock a couple of tracks that aren't used. Like the 8-bit version of that last song.
Yeah. How do you unlock those?
You do the, I think they're from the Play Toad the Right Music ones. I think that's where you get them.
He's only ever asked me to do one thing.
Yeah, you find him in other levels.
Oh.
So there's other times where he'll be there and you'll be like, oh yeah, listen to this thing.
Oh. Alright. So Super Mario Odyssey, interesting shout. My interesting shout, Taken 7. That mainly for its theme this time, I think is really great. It's sort of like I don't know how to describe it. It's not really dubstep. It's not really ambient. It's a kind of odd mixture of the two, and it's with a nice vocal track on the top. And it's in many ways it's very Tekken, but in many ways it's very not. And it's just going back to the main menu feels good because of that little piano like arpeggio going on and things like that, and then occasionally dropping into some heavy synth, and it's like it's really good. And that's true of a lot of the stage music as well. There's some really great varied stage music. There's a couple that are real poopers in there as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you only have to. I mean, and Tekken obviously has a bit of a history of this. You only have to look back at Tekken Tag Tournament where there's a Snoop Dogg bloody level in it.
Well, that's pretty funny, though.
That is pretty funny. With Snoop Dogg in it.
Yeah.
On a gold throne. But yeah, it's a pretty awesome soundtrack in Tekken 7 across the board. The stuff I don't like is actually when they go away from that style, like when they go less synthy and go too orchestral, and it feels totally out of place with the rest of the game. Pretty great stuff, Namco. And again, Tekken soundtrack's always pretty great. So and then the dark horse for this category, Zelda. Because it's hard to describe as a soundtrack in the traditional sense.
Like Zelda, like the field music where it's like there is no soundtrack and it's just the stings of piano plus
very occasionally, yeah.
Plus the sound of the wind rustling in the grass and the I don't know, birds and everything and stuff. It's like amazing and a brilliant choice, but it's not best soundtrack. It's more like best sound design.
Yeah, in many ways.
But it's more like that's great that there's no Hyrule Field theme. I think it's brilliant.
Like
but
the classic Hyrule Field theme, if you took that into a modern orchestral way, like I guess Twilight Princess, I suppose, would be the closest. But it's like it would feel far too epic for most of the time.
That's what I mean. You want to, exactly. So, but any kind of music, almost all like actual theme, wouldn't have worked as well as what they did.
Yeah.
So I'm super happy
because they sort of prove that point themselves, as we talked about between us and in the ice field, right? The moment where they do go down a slightly more musical route, and that suddenly the whole field kind of falls apart.
And they also benefited from it where, like, when you go into Hyrule Castle and then there's music, that makes it way more dramatic.
Yeah, it makes it super epic. So that was really good. And I like the town themes, like I like the desert town.
Yeah, because you're not spending a ridiculous amount of time in towns either, so it feels alright to have a theme there.
Yeah, or the Kakariko village.
And the weird layered music you get in Terrytown as you build it up. You get the different racial themes overlapping into the
that's really good.
theme.
And even like, and the Zora Kingdom. I mean, all the soundtrack that they did works really well. And the
reassuring theme of approaching a stable.
Oh yeah, that's good. And that was kind of deliberate, but reassuring. But that's a classic tune, though, isn't it? And like, it's always nice to hear Kaz in the field.
Especially when he's at the stables, where you get the proper version of, because it's normally you just get the new like wafty stable music that doesn't really have much to it, but then you realise it's actually perfectly overlaid with the actual with the actual opponent's song.
Exactly. So I think it was great work, but I don't know how you could put it as like, it's not a soundtrack you'd listen to outside of the game. So I think
my only problem with the Zelda track is that when the ambient field work, and especially the ice area, I just wish there was more.
There could have been a few more.
Like the number of
stings
is actually quite few, right?
Yeah, because you get that do 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 do.
Yeah, that's the one you hear all the time. Yeah.
Although that's really good. But
and there's the little sort of like.
Exactly.
Where you think it's going to do the morning theme, right?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that.
There's a little bit of that going on, which confuses me every time. And it's like, was it morning?
And there's some nice references. But you don't get, like, a traditional Zelda soundtrack, so you don't get, like where temples and dungeons have their themes and everything.
I can't even remember. Did the beasts have music going on? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah. I think. But, yeah, not as memorable as, like, I was going back and listening and, like, the Forest Temple theme from Ocarina of Time is great. It's so weird and creepy. Like, there's such good stuff in those. Anyway.
The Lost Woods was neat.
Yeah.
It sounded good.
Oh yeah, I like that,
Yeah.
but they reused that a bit too much.
Yeah.
The Lost, because you first go to Lost Woods, and that's the first time I heard it, and I was like, "Wow, this is awesome!" And then they reuse it a few times, don't they?
In the mazes.
In the mazes,
Oh,
yeah, exactly,
yeah.
yeah.
But I mean,
Which is okay.
Yeah, it made sense. It was like it was still a maze.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
It's the maze theme now.
Yeah.
not
They
just
did-
Lost Woods.
and the shrouded areas as well. It's the same as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few.
Yeah.
Like there's
it
that
less-
other
it does
wood,
lessen
isn't
the
there?
impact of the Lost Woods being a thing.
It somewhat does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thumbs up for every choice they made, but it might not be the best soundtrack of the year.
No. Yeah, it's 100% suiting to that game.
Yeah, I
But
think it was perfect, pretty much.
as a standalone piece of work,
No.
yeah, I'm not sure it can really hang. So that makes this decision pretty tricky, I think, because
I don't think it's Mario either, necessarily. I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, the tracks that are good in Mario are really good, but again, it's like the same with Zelda. It's like there's a bunch of other stuff that's just like there.
is it one of those things where the volume of the volume of the excellence in the soundtrack, or the volume of the standout tracks there, it just isn't there in Mario. There are some real highlights,
Yeah.
but in the grand scheme of the whole soundtrack.
So I think
there's a lot- I think a
Mario
lot of
is
the Mario-
much more. If you compare, I'm sure we will be later, but if you compare Mario to Zelda, it's like I feel like Mario is much more hodgepodge and like there's much more misses and hits, whereas Zelda is like they didn't put a foot wrong. It's just taking a different direction.
Other than ice.
Yeah, other than the ice thing. Yeah, as we discussed. Yeah.
Perhaps there could have been more. Yeah, the Zelda
that's
thing.
the
I just
whole-
wish there was slightly more variation. Like maybe in 120 shrines, some of them could have looked and sounded a little different at occasion.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's the same deal. So what about your? Because like, if there's one standout, like if like where it's like that was, that was just a great soundtrack. Then
See, in my head, I have a real hard time because it's like Splatoon's definitely going to be the soundtrack I return to
yeah, but
Because
it's more
I-
listenable for like normal, for like
because
out
it's
of
normal
context,
music. Yeah, in many
Yeah.
ways.
which is fine.
Whereas-
it's true of Jet Set Radio or something like that.
If you want to talk,
Well, ish.
Way more true in Jet Set Radio.
Yeah.
They were
Oh,
just songs.
They were just songs.
well,
yeah.
most of the Jet Set Radio soundtrack is just licensed, but then you've got the original
Yeah.
stuff as well.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's why they're having problems getting Jet Set Radio Future together, because Sega have historically had troubles relicensing music.
Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Yeah.
Well, they'll own that stuff, but the Jean-Jacques and Hideki Naganuma stuff, they'll have the rights to use that, but
Well, they could
the Super Vader or whatever they were called, the crazy Japanese rock bands and Aisle 10
that's always the worst when
and the
it's
Latch
on-
Brothers and things like that, they're probably going to have troubles.
when stuff gets re-released and it doesn't have the music in. That's what. When did that happen? Relatively
Tony
recently.
Hawk's.
Oh, Tony Hawk's. Yeah.
And Crazy Taxi, they couldn't get Offspring.
The classic.
Yeah.
Which,
In fairness, they've never managed to get Offspring other than that one time. So it's tricky because, like, that, as I said, that's the stuff I'd probably go to actually listening to. But like, a bit of my head just can't get over the fact of just how impressive Nier's
Yeah.
soundtrack is, and how it works in context, and how it evolves over the course of the game.
Well, that sounds like a pretty good contender. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, probably. Because
Nier.
I would have said like Splatoon 2 is like again, there's a lot carried over for Splatoon 1.
So is this best original music or best score? They're slightly different. Because if it's best music, like out of context, then Splatoon. If it's best like score
I suppose
context,
I meant soundtrack, score, music. I guess it all blends in, into the same thing. I've worded it as music, but and it's like, I mean, in the way that in my head I'm thinking it. That's why Zelda is applicable, simply because it's like the way it adds to the game.
Yeah.
Cannot be underestimated. Like it's like it, even though on its own it's not so hot, the addition that it makes to the game is pretty great.
The thing is that the trouble with talking about Zelda is like the music in Zelda has always been good, and it's always been an important part of the game. So it's like it's not special that in a way. I mean, what's special is in general with this Zelda is like the way that they've twisted the formula, and the same is true of the music. And it's just as successful as the other twists that they made to the Zelda formula.
Yeah,
but it doesn't make it like I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like it like the. Yeah, I suppose you're right. If you were to take the music out, the whole game suffers.
Oh yeah.
Likewise, though, if you took basically any element of Zelda out, or if you took the music suffers, or the combat suffers, or the story suffers.
I guess the fact that we have this ice music problem is proof that you notice when it goes
when
wrong.
it's wrong.
Yeah. There you go.
Because actually, in some ways, like Nier has that problem where I think there was one bit of music that started to bug me after a while, and that was the Resistance Camp music, because it was in many ways it's actually a little bit traditional Zelda-y in terms of its composition.
Doesn't fit, right?
Yeah, and it's like, but you hear it quite a lot, and it's one of the few tracks that doesn't evolve that much. It has a couple of variants, like there's a vocal version and a non-vocal version that has one of those sort of like nasal sounding pipe instruments or something. And it's if anything, that was the one music that sort of grated on me a bit. And you might argue that some of Nier's segments are a little bit too long for the music track that plays the entire time you're in that segment. So if you're exploring an area and being thorough, it might grate on you a bit after a while, because you're just hearing that loop for quite a long time. Doesn't mean that necessarily that music's bad, it's just perhaps they didn't plan the length of the section to the music in some cases. Which is a knock against it. It's a viable knock against it.
For sure. And then with Sonic, it's like a question of whether the impressiveness of the fact that they've got new tracks that fit perfectly alongside the classics, it is that, really stand out.
In some ways, you know what? I'm not sure they do 100% gel.
Right.
I think it might be just because I'm so familiar with that original work.
Yeah.
That when I do hear the new stuff, and the fact that they can orchestrate it in a perhaps the first pass of that music isn't a Mega Drive-y sounding instrument set.
Right.
When it's just like you can tell that the new level songs just started from like a deeper layer of instruments or whatever.
Yeah,
they just have more happening simultaneously, whereas even the remixes of the old ones, like you can still tell that was once a chiptune.
Yeah, they were able to be composed in a modern technique, unhampered by the restrictions of old, and that does change what you put out.
It does. You wonder why they do that, considering that. Well, I suppose it's not true, because the engine supports more than the old ones did, and the new levels therefore use that. But it's whether or not the constraints are what bring out the creativity. Often.
Whether the composers take that. I mean, I know some composers do that. They'll
deliberately constrain themselves.
They'll strip it back to like, okay, I'm going to start this track with like square waves, and I'm going to limit myself to the NES sound palette to build the composition, and then I'll rearrange it with proper instruments to build up an interesting track. That's for many reasons. That's that reason. I mean, not many reasons, but for that reason, that's why some of the old NES tunes stick around. That's why the Mega Man music is still about today, and that's why the original Mario theme sticks around today, because they had to be composed with those constraints to still be interesting to you.
Yeah,
you can't just wub everything.
What are we feeling then? It's a tough one. Seg, what's your weigh in?
I don't know.
Weight behind.
It's too hard a decision. Like the four that we're just talking about are like different, too different in their own ways. Like Sonic is classic, and then Mario is weird but good, and then has specific ones that are better, and then you've got like Zelda, which is a very specific thing to that game, and Nier is like, it obviously works better with the game, but it's not so much for track, and then Splatoon is like, it carried over from Splatoon 1, and they already had a style, and they just made more of it. They're all too different.
I think I have to go for Nier because of its originality.
That seems fair.
That seems to be the only divider in all of this, is that Nier's style feels like no other on this list.
Coolio. I think we'll go for near then for best music.
Best score, music, noise
Of
making in the
2017.
background thing. Woo! Good stuff.
Moving on.
And I was going to do a best licensed soundtrack category.
It's nothing much, though.
I wrote it in there at the start of the year thinking, oh, this might... Because I played Aero at the start of the year and was kind of blown away by the choices of that. It's like, it's a real good lineup. Not really new stuff. Oh, there's DLC coming. Yeah, it's a pretty good soundtrack. And I was kind of thinking, oh, maybe this will be the year for a licensed soundtrack. So I'm noting it down. And then I don't know if I played another game with licensed music in it this year. Honestly, I don't think a single one.
Yeah. Well, there's no Grand Theft Auto to walk away with it, so...
Yeah.
Um,
So Aero, there you go. Good soundtrack choices, guys. Throwaway award. So now we get on to the fun stuff that I'm hoping Zach will have more than I do for
let's hope so.
best audio thing. Best sound effect, this could so rather than the whole soundtrack, like in terms of music, this can still be music, but it has to be a specific thing. It has to be a moment, it has to be or just a noise, it has to be something that makes you smile, caused by audio. Like, because, I don't know, in previous years we've used the electro zapper from the bloody electro peas in Plants vs. Zombies, because, boy, that's a satisfying noise. So what you got for me, Zig?
I feel like there was probably several in Mario. Because it's not the music, the sound of it. There's definitely a few. It's mainly in... Well, I think...
Hitting the snail with your hat. Boo!
What Rob likes.
Boo!
I was thinking more like the stuff that isn't really music in Mario, where they just do it real good. Like, even just the way the electric...
Real good.
The way the electric sample modulates to the background music, that's pretty cool. I mean, this is just like a callback, but I mean, the way the stupid boost flower uses the P-wing, like, and it's like, that's kind of cool.
Oh, yeah. But and then it gets more...
It gets more when you have more of the
notes.
flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a few things like that.
The retro callbacks in Mario are strong.
Well, yes, and yeah, all the sound effects that they took straight from Mario 64. Collecting a star, jumping in a painting.
Yeah, which is a bit difficult to really count, but yeah, but they are awesome when you hear them and you recognise them. It's like, and you're like, yeah, they just went there, boy.
Yep.
I mean, like, in Zelda, like, I don't know what to choose, but, like, the whole sound design of, like, the end of a shrine, which you obviously get 120 times, with the kind of sighing sound of the monks, or the... and then the... or whatever, the sound of the spirit or going into... And then the... I know you get the classic da-da-da-da-da, but it has a little ding on the end of it, doesn't it? And, like, I just like the whole sequence.
I don't know, I've seen it, like...
And then the way they dissolve, and it has that sound of everything. And the way that the blue stuff breaks and into a million pieces.
Yes. No. That's out of that whole sequence. That is the bit for me. The cage break.
Yeah.
And the noise that makes, and the effect of that fancy effect they use all throughout Zelda, where they do their visual bloom weirdly, don't they, in Zelda, where it's like an old 70s camera saturated effect rather than a bloom to white. And it looks real, that whole moment of just like, dang!
But this is like a whole combination of the audio and the visuals of this whole sequence is really great. And the different poses that the monks have are different for every single shrine.
Yeah.
That whole thing is brilliantly designed, but it can't be like best audio thing. It's just like the audio in that.
No, but if I was to take
element.
one audio thing, that sting of the cage breaking is pretty satisfying.
This is where we can mention the best audio thing that Rob didn't notice. Like when you're, or maybe even Dan didn't necessarily notice.
Really?
When you're hitting the mini guardians in the shrines with the guardian weapons, and it makes a different modification to the music.
Yeah, totally didn't notice that.
Yeah, I mean, just little details like that.
And they do that, I guess, a few other times. Like when you're fighting an actual guardian, if you use the Master Sword and you're stabbing them, it's like in the music, it's slightly more dramatic. It gets that slightly more awesome mode, and then they explode, and it's like, oh, yep, That's a good bit of music to end with that.
Which of the Zelda games? Oh, it must have been. It was Wind Waker, wasn't it? Where it sort of did an orchestral sting every time you hit someone.
Yeah.
Sort of in key with the current music track. And
Yeah, that suited that one.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
it's
know.
more like
I'm
more
trying-
like best sound design, like I say,
Yeah.
rather than like audio thing.
the whole
Yeah.
in Zelda, it's the whole concoction comes together, not a individual thing.
moment, or a thing.
'Cause I am struggling to think of like an individual thing in Zelda that's just totally stand out.
Yeah.
You got any more Mario-y things? Because there's tons of sound in there.
There's tons of great stuff in Mario.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It's kind of hard. It's been a long time since I actually played that now, for me. Some of them, I did quite like the stupid sound effect of the extended leg guys.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was thinking that. The sort of as they pop off the top.
Yeah.
It's like it sounds like it's really uncomfortable for them. Like,
and I know it's not strictly sound, but there's a sound associated with it. When you first go and fight the UFO, and it has its little voice subbly thing where it's like, and it like speaks to you. But I only like that because of what it says. It's like, don't test me, biped. I just thought that line was real funny.
that is good.
Especially because you're like possessing one of those stretchy leg dudes anyway, so it's like even more biped. You literally only have 2 legs, and then the main thing that's the function of your form. Don't test me, biped.
I mean, whoever Nintendo get to do their localization is absolutely genius.
Yeah.
It's normally Treehouse, isn't it? Nintendo Treehouse, that's their localization team. But they often work with. They've worked with 8.4Play and they've worked with SDI Media. I think.
I guess we probably don't have a category for it, but yeah, it's more like not the sounds, but the writing.
The writing.
In like Zelda.
Well, I did
Yeah,
wonder. I did.
Shit that people say.
It's freaking brilliant.
Goddamn hilarious.
Amazing. So good.
Yeah, I did wonder if I'm in two minds about this. Is a question mark category for later. Actually, that one and the sort of interplay between that and the whole story in general.
That's the whole thing. It's like best writing, but not best story, isn't
not
it?
necessarily best story.
Yeah.
It's that's a really tricky distinction.
But
in some ways.
that could work for a lot of games, I reckon. Like, because a lot of games have weak overall story, but good writing.
I'm not sure this audio thing category is going to work for us. I don't
No.
think.
Well, I've got Sonic Mania stuff because that Ruby noise is cool. The Warp Ruby.
Sure. I guess.
It's just so fat. It's just a little bit beyond what the old FM chips on the Mega Drive could do, but it still sounds like it could have come from a Mega Drive. If you know what I mean? I know it's slightly beyond its capabilities, but it's a cool noise. That's all wow. And also the green sludge bounce is pretty satisfying. Sort of a blah.
That is a classic Sonic noise, technically.
Is it? I thought it was like slightly more.
It's a modified version.
Yeah,
of the classic
they've made it
Sonic
way
noise.
beefier
Yeah.
than it used to be. And it holds its tone a little longer, so it's like blah.
And I guess technically this is music from the whole Mean Bean Machine remix. It's not exactly music, but it is a pretty awesome bit of music.
The problem with that is like their Mean Bean stuff is actually too much like Puyo Pop's sound design, which actually isn't as good as Mean Bean.
No.
And it's Puyo Puyo.
And on the negative side of that, they didn't sufficiently replicate the combo noises for the rip off. Mean Bean.
I mean, that whole bit is a lot of work to have gone to just for a boss sequence in general. So it's impressive it's there, but could have gone a bit further. Yippee!
Yep, you need to have that, and you can't like make that sound effect better. It still has to be as terribly bit crunched as for that to work.
Absolutely. So those are our picks for best audio too.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to pick one. Is the problem?
No.
I think we'll just be like something in Mario is the best audio thing because that has the most nominations and it's most likely to win.
Well, yeah. I mean, we could change it into like best sound design.
But then Zelda wins.
Yeah, but then Zelda wins. Yeah,
Zelda wins. Well, yeah. Well, let's just say that.
okay,
Best sound design, Zelda.
for
Not
sure.
the best individual audio thing, but just
But
best
best overall
all-round
sound design.
feeling soundscape.
Yep, brilliant work, amazing stuff.
All right, let's have the flip of that. Let's get sour.
Let's get sour.
What annoyed you the most in audio? Worst audio thing, also including worst music. I will allow.
Okay.
So I've got a lot more for this
Do you?
Of course, it's
because there's nothing more annoying than an irritating sound effect.
Yeah.
So the Zelda Icy music is in here.
we put that down, but I
Yeah.
think it's not that.
It's not the worst.
It's not the
It's not the worst by a long shot. I think the arms music is real bad. This is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I just don't think it's well made. Like, and
Yeah, but how much do you hear that, though? I mean, it is the menu music,
it
I
is the menu
suppose.
music, yeah.
But theoretically, you shouldn't be hearing that much.
Yeah, I just didn't like it, but probably not as big a deal as some of these other ones. It's funny. Just oh, whoa, whoa, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. And a bit more, it's that weird new Nintendo in some ways, but just too much new Nintendo. Formula Fusion's shield warnings,
Yes.
quite frequent, quite irritating. Because it does that thing where if you just then creep your shield bar back over the point where it notifies you, and you then creep it back under, it reminds you again. So there'll be a lot of races where you'll be picking up shield power-ups and then hitting a wall immediately, and then picking up a shield, but it'll be like shield low, shield critical, shield low. And it does that for the health bar as well, so you get your shield knocked down, and it'll be like health low, health critical, health low. It's like, oh god, that gets real irritating real fast. Because it's a fast racing. Anyway.
Missile.
Yeah. Missile.
That was great. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I quite liked those old weapon warnings.
Yeah, the missile one. Because it was so deadpan in one
Missile.
part. It's like missile. And not like, oh my god, there's a homing missile on your ass. It's like missile.
Yeah.
Guns. Rockets. Shield. Energy. Low. Like as slow as possible.
The heart rate monitor noise in the backing track of Chemical Plant Zone Act 2.
I thought that was good.
Oh, that annoys me. I think that the idea of a heart rate monitor sound just in general, and I'm not sure I just like that noise. It doesn't matter where it is, just don't like that noise. I don't like it in a music track especially, I think.
Well,
Just
that was divisive.
Yeah, bit of a grope for me. I don't like it. The number of times you hear Mario's long jump cry.
Woohoo!
But it's more annoying because you very occasionally hear a different one. It's like, shit, there are different ones.
but
they mostly use that one.
Same
Yeah.
one, yeah. I mean, it's just it's kind of a holdover, right?
I guess, but
They could have added a few more.
Yeah, a lot more would have been helpful.
Considering there's quite a lot of different sounds.
Yeah.
They could have done a few more for that one.
Uh-huh.
And they knew that people wanted to travel fast. It's the classic.
Or maybe they just didn't communicate that you were meant to do that, not by the long jump nowadays.
They
Yeah,
meant to do it by rolling and shaking, I guess.
rolling and jiggling.
Although that sound effect is kind of repetitive as well.
True.
He still makes a noise.
And that weird whooshy noise is a bit strange as well.
Yeah.
Again, this one got less annoying than it was at first. I thought the Mario 1 heart buzzer was really irritating when I first started playing it, but then it got less irritating.
Zach's right, it fades away really fast.
Yeah.
So it is annoying though, but it fades away really fast. And you're only
I think
annoyed
I was
because
standing still.
You were just about to die. It's probably not the noise itself.
Yeah, I think towards the start of the game I was just standing still more frequently, looking around. And then, of course, the noise comes back when you do that.
Right.
When you're active, it fades out. If you're just hanging about, it warns you.
Comes back, yeah.
Um,
That's more of a problem that there's not enough hearts around.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I just remember clearly the best audio thing from Mario is if you let him go to sleep. And then he goes through so many goddamn different pasta dishes.
Yeah.
There's a lot more pasta dishes now.
Oh, can you do that in general? Because I thought that was just when you finish the game and he's asleep already.
You could do that at any time.
Oh, cool. Because it's got the 3 from...
It's got the 3 classics, but then
Madison's
there's more.
And then carries on, yeah.
There's loads.
Ah, spaghetti. Ah, ravioli. Ah, mamma mia. But it just carries on, right? That's classic.
There are I can't even name most of the pastas he mentions.
No.
They just don't know.
And of course, thank you so much for playing my game.
And for playing my game.
Except not with both. They got rid of the English.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Slime Rancher's plot delivery noises. Although, in fairness, they patched out the most annoying version of it. Because it did used to just be a super bassy gun noise. The gun noise in that game was quite bassy anyway. The vacuum that you have, so it was just going thum really deeply in the background. But also, when the old Plort then landed in the receptacle, it would sort of make a weird sort of tone that would then be slightly modulated in pitch, but not enough, not like semitones or anything. So it would be like la 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 la. And you could be depositing 50 of these at once. So, blah, 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 blah. And then you switch your tank and do another 50 of them. Blah, 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 blah.
Yep, sounds annoying.
Yep. I thought it was fine because it's me doing it, but to other people around me, possibly the most annoying thing ever this year. But they've changed it now to be a bit more toneful, so it's like blah 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 blah. I hope my descriptions were helpful. And Zach's suggestion, which I think is great, the tired zombie noise from 7 Days to Die.
I mean, this is one of...
But it is an early access title.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where, it's not technically a game of this year. It was just something that I heard a lot in this year. But yeah, the fact that your player character makes a groaning noise that sounds very much like a zombie in a game of zombies that tend to sneak up behind you.
Yeah.
It's that's really bad.
Yep, terrible.
It's just a slightly poor choice. You got any more? Any more for any more?
I don't think so. I'm trying to look. You know what else could have been in best audio thing? Going back to the previous category again? All units.
Just
That's an old one, though, isn't it?
I mean, perhaps
The fact that they brought it back.
perhaps I should just win every year. All units presents best audio.
Yeah, there you go. All units presents. Yeah, I can't think of any other bad ones, I don't think.
I think we get the worst audio thing gets off light a little this year.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know how it actually was in the final game, but in the trailer, it annoyed everyone. The ridiculous screaming noise the Nidhogg dudes make in Nidhogg 2 when they stamp on when they kill the other dude by stamping on them. It's like, Aah! It's like that. That really It was it was part of the whole problem people had with the Nidhogg 2 aesthetic anyway. That sound effect was just part of that style. So
right.
It was just, it fit, but it was just people just didn't like that anyway. So I don't know if that was worst audio thing exactly. But people definitely didn't like it.
Also another throwback. If we wanted to talk sound design, as much as I dislike that game, Rain World, quite a good audio aesthetic. Quite a good aesthetic in general. Yeah, very sort of ambient-y, floaty, and everything sort of done in new agey sort of things like that. It comes together quite well. Shame the game kind of blows.
Shame that the game kind of blows.
It's a technical term. Kind of blows. So are we having a worst thing?
Well, I'm pick one of those, I guess.
Sounded like the zombie noise was the worst.
But that's early access.
Yeah.
We normally disregard early access because they could change it.
Okay.
And it's better to do it in the year it actually comes out in.
Yeah. So this could come up next year.
Yeah.
Plot deliveries? Just because I want to say plot delivery again.
Fine.
That definitely does sound annoying in general. Just that.
But then does it count because it got patched out?
It got made better. I don't think they completely solved the problem.
Right.
It's just it's a loud, repeating noise that you have to do very frequently.
You do a lot, yeah.
There it is then. Plort.
Slime Rancher's plot delivery terms.
They totally could have made some better mechanism for that where you didn't have to do 50 individual things.
Yeah.
You could have just done one big bloop and just put the water in.
Yeah.
If it was that noise, that would be a best audio thing. It'd be fadoop.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoop.
It's a combination of it being bad and a missed opportunity for it being
For
awesome.
a better noise, yeah.
Okay, that's the winner.
Plort.
Slime Rancher's plort delivery.
Plort. Positive time. Best surprise. Sometimes confused with most surprise.
Well, sometimes a separate category from most surprises.
So most bestest to surprisest.
Okay. The nominees from my mouth are... Beyond Good and Evil 2 is officially a thing.
Surprise!
Okay, so this also includes things that aren't
This is just
games.
news. Yeah, this is
things.
gaming news, yeah. Because, all the categories so far we've had to tie down to games.
Yeah.
Surprise can be like, ooh, industry stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a great deal to say about that other than, like, hey, that trailer was real good.
Well, that... Again, I'm not sure that has the best surprise because
It's been teased for years, in fairness, but, like, not officially.
Yeah, but also it's a surprise couched in a massive pile of, like suspicion and reluctance to think that it'll be any good.
And it's incredibly early. Yeah.
So there's not really any information. It's like it's a big surprise that they did it, but will it turn out to be any kind of good surprise?
Yeah, has it worried people as much as it's been it made people happy to see it existing?
Yeah.
Because I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that it exists. I'm really happy that I'm really happy in their vision for the game.
Well, the vision for the universe, not really the game.
Yeah, I guess.
You don't know what the game's going to be.
I mean, it's a little bit of a shame that it's not a sequel. Because the first game ends on a cliffhanger.
Well, at least it's a prequel.
Yeah.
So it at least ties into the story somewhat.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's cool. I really want to see how that turns out. The Mushroom Kingdom in Mario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that should be one of the most obvious things in the world, right? But the way they did it is the good...
It was brilliant. And then the fact that it's quite a full-size world, right? Like,
a proper kingdom.
Proper kingdom. I mean, I think this is a danger with... There's danger with the game that with that in particular is that it's just like, is it just nostalgia, That's the problem.
Yeah.
And of course it is.
It is. There's a lot of that there.
But...
Yeah. And, well, in a weird way, actually,
I think that one was earned.
It's one of the more standout kingdoms in some ways, other than that as well, because it's most casual in terms of objectives.
Yeah, it's
frequently,
nice.
It's the least combative of all the areas.
Yeah.
It's
At first, I thought it was just a nice retro kind of treat, and then you realise, oh, hang on, there's
there's loads
tons
to do there.
of moons here. This is awesome. But yeah, I mean, it is just like nostalgia injection, basically, for someone like me.
And I would say that in terms of surprise, the idea the using the portrait to the Mushroom Kingdom as a lot of players' first people's experience of the kingdom, such as mine, I think that dampens it. I mean, it was still cool.
Oh, I thought when I
wait,
emerged,
what? You come out and you're like, wait, what? And then you get that, and then if you looked around and got Yoshi's star, which is the first point, you're like, this is a star.
Yeah.
Not a moon.
Okay.
And then it played the old Sting.
Yeah.
Oh, cool!
Yeah, for me it was awesome. So I would certainly count that as.
But I think it might have been stronger if you just sort of ended there at the end of the game
and just appeared there.
Yeah,
I don't know. I liked that you stumble across it rather than because you can't expect maybe something good to happen at the end of the credits. Whereas that it was like, what the fuck is this? Oh my god! Yeah, it was really good. I think that was good because they made it a surprise.
Yeah, all right.
What about the other?
Although you could have predicted it, had you looked at the portrait, is the other thing. But I didn't. I just jumped in.
Yeah. You would have had to. Well, yeah. I guess you would have been able to see it well enough to know what it was.
Yeah.
What about the other surprises in there? Obviously, though, because they stacked a few surprises at the end of the game that were completely fucking nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they can't stand on their own. Maybe it just has to be the whole everything past the last regular kingdom in Mario Odyssey.
Right, what, like the dark side?
Yeah,
the
you
dark
have the fucking dragon fight, then you go to Bowser's Castle, which
The
is
dragon fight is weird.
Yeah, God, boy, what a thing that was.
Where it
You're
turns into like Bayonetta or something.
well, yeah, that sort of sun over gothic feel. You're like,
Yeah.
am I in the same? What? Why am I here?
So you have that, then you have Bowser's Castle, where the surprise is that it's a Japanese-style castle this time,
Which was
that was kind
awesome.
of cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
which is excellent.
And then you go
I
to
love
the
the
moon.
aesthetic. I love the aesthetic and the moon. Yeah, the moon.
And that's fucking ridiculous as well.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's full of great stuff.
Oh shit! God damn it! Now that I'm actually thinking about Mario, I'm just remembering things that were good
Awesome.
about it.
Yeah.
But like, I really liked when they did that remix of the Bowser's Castle music in the lava room in the moon when you go underground in the moon.
Oh yeah,
That mix of that music is great.
that's pretty good.
Although
yeah.
it does run into the same problem that I had with Pokemon Mystery Dungeon like years ago, where they use this epic dramatic music, but then you just go back outside of the moon surface and it goes back to the vaguely atmospheric moon noises again.
Moon
It's like,
music.
that's kind of anticlimactic.
It's also one of the few
Anticlimactic.
climatic. Like,
Yep.
Yeah,
It's a callback to another one of our programs.
yeah. It's one of the few times where they also. Well, actually, it might be the only time where they have invisible checkpoints as well. That sequence. We should talk about that. And I have got a best sequence
Sure.
category this year, so we'll come back to that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think anything in terms of any of those sequences really tops Mushroom Kingdom. There are plenty of sequences that surprised me. I didn't expect to be running away from a bloody dinosaur on a scooter.
Sure.
And that turned out to be one of my favourite parts of the game, for some reason, even though it's one of the cheapest parts of the game in many ways.
Yeah.
But it's just, I was just like, what?
But that's why that's why I said that it's all of those together. Just the whole end of that game is like a continuous surprise.
Yeah. Those brills.
Sonic Mania.
Yep, just
Being-
existing. And
Not
being
just
good.
not just being a Sonic game, but being an accepted good game by pretty much every outlet.
I don't think it's surprising that it was accepted. It
No.
was just a good game, and therefore everyone liked it. It's
but
not complicated.
But I don't know. I'm not. I've not been convinced for a very long time that any of the Sonic games are looked on as fondly as
But
we
you
look
could
upon
you
them.
could see this. Well, you could see this coming with the trajectory of this guy and
Sure,
him remaking Sonic and having the Sonic CD or whatever he did, and then being given the ability to. I mean, the surprise is more that Sega let him do it rather than it being good or people liking it. Like, of course they are, because it's bound to be great, because Sonic Team don't know how to make a Sonic game, so
No.
this guy clearly did. So
not-
just give him the ability to do it.
I think it's surprising. Knowing that side of the story
Yeah.
lessens the surprise for sure. But coming at it from the other direction, whereas last time they tried this was Sonic 4.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that was a bad game, and no
Yeah.
one liked
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Therefore, not surprising.
But that was the last time they tried coming at it from the same marketing angle, right? That it was the same time
True.
they said, "Hey, remember these old games? We're going to do that."
but
And then Sonic 4 happened.
the main reason Sonic 4 was bad is because they didn't pay enough attention to how the character movement feels and everything, and that was exactly what everyone knew that this guy knew how to do, because
Yeah,
he'd
'cause he'd
recreated
done it
it
before.
perfectly.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's not a surprise. To me, anyway. I think it's great that it's
I think to me it was. I even with all of that, I think it's like not just. I think the surprise to me is that I don't know. I don't think Sonic, even the original Sonic games,
yeah.
are held in particularly high regard by most game critics or
I guess
or
not.
the gaming public as a whole. And it's for this to come along and for people, for a great deal of the industry to turn around and say, "Hey, Sonic games."
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a
Remember?
great deal of the industry still liked Sonic 2.
Sonic 2's the one, right? Yeah, Sonic 2's the golden child that never seems to get too much flack.
And, they made a good one of those. It's fine. I don't think it's that surprising. But yes,
fair enough, fair
existing at all and coming out
Is
as well
a
as it
surprise.
did is the surprise.
Yeah, and us,
Which is a good
and us
surprise.
finding very little wrong with it, even as fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty great.
Apart from the last boss.
Apart from the last boss.
The last boss.
I don't know, there are a couple of bosses that are a bit flaky, but yeah. Star Fox 2 gets released. Who saw that?
Are we
one
talking
coming?
about good surprise or most surprise? Because that's definitely most surprise.
Yeah, there's a bit of both in that one. Like, who saw that one coming? Honestly.
Nope.
So yeah, most surprise for sure. It doesn't sound like the game has been that well received. As
Well,
like, but,
I don't think it's that good a game.
No, unfortunately. But yeah, really cool that it exists. Really cool. Let's extend out this Nintendo goodwill to just be like, hey, Nintendo, the Switch has done well.
I don't think that's
How
that
surprised-
much of a surprise.
Did we really see that coming? I mean,
Well, we didn't see it coming from very far away.
No.
Because they didn't really tell us anything until like
But
the
it's-
last possible minute.
they told us
Yeah.
about very late 2016 was when I think we got the Switch trailer, right?
Because they were on an inflection point where they could have gone totally down the toilet after the Wii U, or they could have like massively brought it back, and that's what they did. So there you go.
Yeah.
Like, and we've been thinking.
Well, I mean,
everyone's been speculating for years about them because of their hardware track, where they don't try and compete on power. Everyone's been speculating for years over whether they would go for a combined full console and mobile.
Well, we did. Yeah,
We'll
I mean,
talk about it forever.
by this time last year, we knew what the Switch was going to be because not only
Right.
had the patents leaked, but the main trailer had come out.
I think it always looked good once they've done that. I think it's
I
surprising.
think that would have been. I think what surprises me is that I thought going into the Switch's launch there would have been more of a skepticism about it in the same way that there was about Wii U. In that, I think going into when it launched and knowing that Zelda was somewhat unproven,
Yeah.
and knowing that they were going in a new direction with Zelda, and in that stuff, and the launch lineup for Switch apart from that wasn't very
No.
strong.
But all you need is that
And
killer
then-
app.
yeah.
And then as soon as everyone's playing it, that's it. It's like with the original Xbox.
yeah.
It's like, Microsoft getting into the console game. Not sure about this. It's basically a PC in a giant box. It's really loud.
Hey guys, Halo.
And then Halo. And then it's like, well, end of discussion.
Yeah.
The reason everyone was skeptical about the Wii U is because it was the Wii U.
Yeah,
because it was
sucked.
a sequel to a Wii,
Yeah.
which was a weird decision.
Which people didn't understand either. Yeah. But I really don't like, looking back, I really don't like the Wii U gamepad at all. It's Fisher Price piece
It
of
was
shit.
never that bad.
No.
It's never that. It doesn't look much, but as a bit of hardware, it functions pretty well.
It definitely feels weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like, weirdly light plastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I never.
Like, if
had
you
that
compare it
much
to the
problem
actual the way the Switch feels, obviously the Switch is super heavy because there's a fucking ridiculous amount of stuff in it. But the plastic quality is nice.
Yeah.
Nice quality.
And they did really well out of NVIDIA basically like speculatively creating all this awesome 3D
Was it like a
mobile tech.
Tegra 3.5?
Yeah,
something,
and then
isn't
just
it?
going, yoink, we'll take that.
Yeah.
And we'll make the most a really successful console out of that. Because NVIDIA must have been losing money on developing all that shit. So it's worked out for them too. Right? I can't imagine them
I don't
making
know how
money
that- I
back
don't know
on
how that stuff-
shields and things.
Oh, right. Yeah, whether or not... Well, Tigras do get used, or used to get used in some Android phones. I don't know if they still
Right.
do. I don't know what powers the Razer phone, for instance. I would assume that would have been a Tigra set or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think there was a point in time where Tigras were more popular than they are now.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think didn't Nvidia miss the boat?
Video.
Nvidia.
They're going to buy Nintendo.
Didn't Nvidia miss the boat on some of on this console generation?
Yeah, they did.
Everything moved to Radeon.
Yep. Everything went to them. Yeah.
So good for them, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, and they just decimated the PC market, right, with that 1080 card. So Nvidia doing all right.
I think the consoles only went to AMD because they were like desperate because they'd lost the PC market,
Yeah,
and so they could get a good deal on everything.
yeah, that's probably true.
It's a bit like the old Power PC or whatever.
All right, and finally from me, the surprise PC ports of Bayonetta and Vanquish, possibly paving the way for Sega's future PC support. Although
It's a nice surprise.
slightly dampened by the fact they'd already done Valkyria Chronicles.
Yeah, it's like... I mean, I guess it wasn't a trend until there were two, but you saw that they maybe were going to start doing that.
Yeah.
But they did.
Because they did Valkyria Chronicles last year. And then these two big uns, well, Platinum got on board basically with the PC thing, and we were like, we're doing it too. Although, slightly disappointingly, the existence of Bayonetta 3 still being a Nintendo property or not owned property, but a published property, does kind of poo-poo the idea of us getting a Bayonetta 2 on PC anytime soon.
Yeah, well, play it on the go.
Yep. Buy that Switch version. Well, and I've also, again, not really a category, I suppose, because I don't know what else we'll say in best trend, but this factors back into the Switch's success, because I've just put Nintendo are back, baby! Because it's if we want to talk about... Okay, how many of us predicted that not only would the Switch be a success, but that it would have so many good games this year?
I mean, we knew it was going to have Zelda and Mario, right? And that hasn't happened for a while.
I don't think they announced Mario until at some point in this year. I don't know if we knew... Did we know Mario was coming? Oh no, they showed some footage of a Mario game during the Switch trailer, but we didn't know what it was at that point in time.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So we would have known that there was a Mario somewhere in the pipeline. Or that it was a tech demo. We honestly didn't know. What it turned out to be was that bit of the Sand Kingdom where you're in Bullet Bills. And it came out this year.
Amazing. What a year for Nintendo.
Yeah. Who'd have thought so?
But I like Mushroom Kingdom for surprise. That's quite nice. It was a surprise.
It's a fun one, yeah.
A nice moment.
Because you can't really just say the whole of Zelda. Because it was a surprise in that they made it completely different.
And
succeeded in making it completely.
I would say if you wanted surprise in Zelda, I think to me the most surprising thing about Zelda is how much you enjoy those first few hours.
Yeah.
Whereas it's sinking in just what you're getting into.
Yeah, because that's when you're
how
experimenting
exciting
with
it
all
feels.
the physics and everything, and you've got a little playground in the White Plateau. And it's
just those first 2 or 3
just
hours. And that short amount of time as you're approaching Kakariko.
Yeah.
Kakariko,
I guess.
I think when you up till the point where you reach the sort of where your mind is going about what the possibility space of this adventure is going to be is super exciting for that period of time. And to be honest, after that point, it starts dawning on you, oh, okay, now I know exactly what this experience is going to be like to some amount. There's still stuff to discover.
Plenty of surprises along the way.
Yeah, but I think you get that's the point where suddenly where it settles in and you're like, this is what this game is. Awesome. Because it's just you're not told anything really up to the point where you get to Kakariko. It's you're mostly just figuring it out on your own.
Yeah, the guy's go that way vaguely. I mean, you don't have to, but I mean, it's probably a good idea to head in that general direction.
Yeah. Mechanically, you're not really told anything for all of that time, other than perhaps here's a glider. Pretty great. So unless Zach's got any more, best surprise seems to be the Mushroom Kingdom reveal in Mario Odyssey.
Which was brilliant.
And the rest of the end of Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
Pack them all together. It's one big thing.
Okay.
Best trend we'll skip over, because unless you've got anything more than that. Nintendo are back, baby. That's a good trend.
Yeah, we love it.
You call that a trend? I don't know.
Alright, so I did start formulating a best story category, but I'm not quite sure how to plan this out because I don't think there are many super strong stories, from beginning to end, tales this year. To the point that I've only got 2 on this list. But I don't know whether this counts as something we should wrap writing into in the way that you described earlier.
Yeah, I don't know if we can.
Because they are quite distinct in some ways.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep, skip both of those categories.
Just skip them both.
Story and writing don't really have enough of one or the other to make a category out of.
I think it is worth covering story just because even though there's only 2 in there, and it's incredibly difficult to pick between Nier and Hellblade, they are top tier in terms of its narrative. Really, truly something special, those 2 games. Nier for... Not necessarily because its writing is super strong. This has the opposite problem to the writing question, and
it's
a lot of the individual conversations aren't that hot. But it's the overall concept of what they're trying to do, and how that blends with what you do gameplay-wise, and how the 2 things are effectively one and the same thing, and then it becomes apparent towards the end of the game that the story is purposefully like a game, and it's toying with you in that respect. And it just does a great deal of very clever things towards the end of Nier that, both in terms of, fourth wall breaks and in terms of just general making you think about existence in the worst ways possible, and the depth of all of that. It's just somewhat incredible that a video game can do that and do it in a way that I don't think has been done quite so effectively before. Nier is amazing, and I have to point out Hellblade for similar reasons. I don't think any game has approached the concept of mental health and psychosis quite as effectively as this. It is, and that's strengthened by the fact that, actually, maybe the game itself doesn't explain itself, because I'm not sure someone with those conditions can explain it that particularly well. But what then does explain it is the fact that they go the extra mile and do this pretty decent documentary on how they came to making the decisions they did for the game design, which strictly isn't part of the game, right? So that's a sort of black mark against it. But then it does make you understand why they did what they did better. And then in many ways actually then made me reflect on what Hellblade did as I played through it, and I came to appreciate it even more as a result. I came to look at it and go, right, that's what you were representing there. I super get that now. At the time I was confused and bewildered, as I suppose I would be if I had that condition. But now I see that's what you were going for. Total sense. Amazing job. Seriously amazing job. So even if we don't crown a winner in this category, if you haven't played those two games,
check them out
and you have any interest in the evolution of storytelling in video games, you need to play those two games.
They're the two from this year to play.
They are incredible. Really incredible. Although the investment, if you're going to do it in Nier, is quite high.
Pays off though.
Yeah, it's a long time coming.
Right, might need a comfort break in a minute.
All right, let's take it. Let's go. This is a good time to break, I think.
Cool. You're going to enjoy some break music that Rob doesn't have.
Oh boy, yeah, I'm not sure I have a break sound.
Which he will insert here.
Just trim some bit of a track.
And then we'll be back for part 2 of Game of the Year 2017.
Yeah. Maybe I used a little stinger I used at the end of when we did the Collision Software videos. That little bit of music.
You're about to hear it, listeners.
Yeah. Basically, because it's got some samples of both me and Zach in the background. See if you can pick them out.
Enjoy.
Mexican Rob says bye for now.
And we're back to the Saladcast Game of the Year discussions. And we continue with another category. Rob, will you do the honours?
I'll get there.
Yeah, he gets to his phone. Didn't really plan that one through, where he had to start the recording and then move over here and then sit down and then pull out his phone and then navigate to the thing on his phone where the categories are.
That's pretty good commentary right there.
Yep.
It's like he's totally practicing his Rocket League shoutcasting skills.
Entirely.
Well, my Android manipulation shoutcasting skills.
Competitive phone manipulation.
Yeah, one of the thing is right, we need you to make sure that Bixby doesn't work.
Well, that sounds like one of those things where
the shortest time possible.
Where it's like cup stacking or whatever. It's
doing
doing something completely stupid, but doing it really fast.
Do a mundane task the fastest you can. Alright, here we go. Following on from our previous shout-outs about best story, best sequence.
Well, we don't normally do this, do we?
No, we don't normally, but there are sorts of... I think this is a shout-out basically to that Mario thing you alluded to in Best Surprise.
Sure.
And that there are so many little things this year that are stand out on their own that it's worth shouting them out. Now, this can be both story and mechanical. Like, if there's a thing in the game that's just like...
I'm not sure that counts as a sequence exactly, but okay, we'll just say that's what the game is.
Yeah. It's sort of like best gameplay thing in some ways.
Or like best moment.
Or and it's just sort of all wrapped into one. Because the problem with best moments in some respects is that it's it doesn't always encapsulate the difference between something that can be narrative or something that can be just a thing in a game that makes you super happy.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, one of my previous one of my suggestions is the Jaxi, just on its own. It's like
I don't know why you like that so much.
I don't
No,
know.
neither do I.
I find it really satisfying. I don't know. It's just something about how it moves, the ridiculousness of its animation, and it's like the whole time, the way it breaks and it's hard to control. It's like I kind of actually like all of that. It comes together quite well.
It's pretty good. But there's a lot of good things in Mario.
Yeah. And the sort of the crazy music that plays. I like it. Yeah. But probably more appropriately, the New Donk City Festival.
I don't know why people like that so much.
Oh, okay.
It's good,
It's good.
but it's not like amazing.
Not as good as the end of the game.
No.
Which is also on my list.
Well, yes, it would have to be.
So,
Speaking of, this
do
is
you
not
want to
really-
talk about that whole end sequence, just in general? Like, because now's the chance we can,
Well,
right?
yeah.
Spoiler free.
There is one other
Spoiler
thing
full.
that's not really for this section, but I wasn't mentioning it because I said I was going to on the podcast when I first talked about Mario. Because I said there was a little thing that I liked that was interesting and a spoiler when we first talked about it. When I was talking about like the different moon animations,
Yeah.
the like ocean hand.
Oh, yeah.
There was another thing where I said that it was a spoiler because I couldn't mention it, and that's because it was on the moon. But did you notice, in terms of small things that Mario did that made it ridiculously detailed, that when you're on the moon, if you're standing in the shadows, he does his cold animation?
Nice.
Because it's like,
Oh, I didn't even notice.
as if
Wow.
you were... Except it doesn't make sense, because apparently the moon in the Mario universe has an atmosphere which would negate that effect.
I guess, yeah.
But still, it was fancy. And then if you put on warm clothes, it gets rid of that. Like the spacesuit, for example, counts.
Yeah.
As you would imagine it would.
You'd hope so.
But that was a nice little. I was like, I saw it for a split second when I stopped moving. I was like, is that doing that because I'm standing in the shadow? It's like, oh, it is. how like appropriate, except not.
Yeah.
How nearly scientific of you.
Yeah, all of that moon stuff is super nicely done.
And it has low gravity.
Of course.
It's been rare in games recently that the moon actually has low gravity.
And it's a Mario game, so it's like the ideal
So you
game
jump
game.
insanely high.
Yeah, exactly. Which is freaking awesome.
Could I potentially, and again, another little tiny little stupid thing that happens in Mario,
Yeah.
but that moment when a bird comes sits on you, when you sit down on the bench,
And the
and
bird.
just a bird turns up. I like that.
Yeah.
Just why would you put that in the game that a bird just comes and sits on your head? It's a good moment. Anything else in Mario that needs shouting out, or do we want to, as I say, dig into this end sequence and why it's so ridiculous? Like, taking control of Bowser,
Sure. I mean,
Bowser with a mustache.
you did. It was
extra
like
mustache.
it was real obvious that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's like the whole concept of the game. It's like, yeah, you know you're going to take over Bowser at some point. He even wears a hat, which is the signifier of
The
something you
giveaway.
can take over when you knock his hat off.
Yeah. Weirdly doesn't apply to the Broodals, right? Because you knock their hat off and then you just have to stomp them.
I guess. Yeah. Maybe they're special because they're space rabbits.
Yeah, space rabbits are not susceptible to hats.
Well, because the regular tiny rabbits aren't susceptible to the hat either, aren't they?
No. They just have to be caught, right?
Yeah.
It's a special genetic trait of rabbits. They are hat resistant. Yeah, that was cool. But then, and I want to say, like, as cool as that sequence was, it got better towards the end because, like, I actually thought like the bit when you're just running away from everything, exploding and mashing way through rocks,
Yeah.
wasn't actually that impressively done, right? Like the sort of the rocks themselves and that sort of little bit was quite blandly made, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. It was just
So
like,
it's cool to be doing
it's
it,
just a
but
cave.
like perhaps they could have put a little more finesse into how that all actually looks. But it's better when you get to the golden tree
Yeah,
or whatever
yeah.
that thing in the middle was.
Yeah, that was awesome. With the music as well.
Yeah,
As previously
and it
said.
kicks in.
And another.
And then that whole end sequence, actually, if you want to go that far,
Yeah.
like the whole ridiculous Mario versus Bowser and Peach just being strong, independent woman, bitches. No.
And then apparently you just leave Bowser on the moon because fuck him.
Yeah. With the low grab kick.
Yeah. Even though, that doesn't make any sense, but whatever.
Whatever, Mario.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just make it very clear again. Nothing in Mario makes sense. Not one damn thing.
And it was another randomly entirely unnecessary but nice thing that you could, if you like, when you're playing as Bowser, you can use the motion controls to actually breathe fire, even though that's not actually useful in any way.
Cool.
Like, you just use the claw slash and it's way more effective. Because you just need to get shit out of your way right next to you, not far away. Apart from when you're 2D, and then you need to use the fireball, of course.
Do we want to put... what was the biped line? Don't try me biped.
Yes, don't test me biped.
Don't test me. Is that good?
Yeah, but that's
That moment?
none of these things were really out that much of a moment, except for the whole end sequence. Like,
I
you have to be a bit more broad than these incredibly small moments. The tiny little things, even though they're good. But if you're picking one moment or one period of time, because it's not really a moment, whatever.
I suppose as I say, that whole Gothic section
Yeah,
is quite the surprising sequence. And like,
Really weird.
not to be too heavy on the surprise bit, but you sort of go there. I'm not sure it's the best, but it's
No.
just like in terms of like sort of okay, this is weird for a Mario game. This is weird, and it actually looks quite good. I mean, I suppose that's the weirdest thing about that bit, right? That it looks so dark and lightningy and well made. And as you sort of include a little bit Bayonetta, actually, yeah, in its art design. Pretty cool. Any more Mario thingies? Or should we actually try and include other games in here somehow?
probably.
Because there's a few heavy moments in Nier that are worth bringing up. Because like there's just parts of that game where you're not quite sure. Oh, they went there. And so it gets more and more extreme as it goes on, but there are like three sort of standouts. One of which being the start of playthrough C, where everything you thought about the world sort of gets turned on its head in one glorious hour at the start of the... when I say sequence, that's quite a long sequence. But it basically involves the death of who you thought was the main character. Sort of, as I say, roughly 2/3 of the way through that storyline, and it's quite a long, drawn-out process where your entire Allied forces are taken out by an unknown change to things that you haven't really had the chance to, that one of the characters knows about, but hasn't really had a chance to fully explain to everyone, and so it all goes bad. Like, and you're like, and it has that real sense of like, oh, this is the end. This is it. This is the end, right? Like, how do we come back from this? And it does some cool stuff with the UI and things. Like you get virused effectively at one point, so your subsystems are slowly degrading as you go. So the menus start going wrong.
Classic.
If you went to pause
Metal Gear.
yeah. If you want to go pause the game, like, but the bits of it stop displaying properly, and certain options stop being able to work. And there's like EMP mechanics during that sequence, so certain bits of your like character's maneuverability get taken away from you with a nice big red error message appearing on screen saying, hey, you can't dodge right, like error, dodge systems offline. And it's all presented like sort of like old school Windowsy errors. And
Nice.
it's like, oh, it's so cool, that sequence. It's just like, that's the point where if you'd got a bit bored of playthrough B because it's covering a lot of the same ground, C just lands and you're just like, oh, it's on now. There's a bigger enemy. And also asks a great deal of questions, which then leads you even deeper into that storyline. And it's like, it does all the right things you need at that point in the game. It's pretty great. Also stand out a little bit, also in playthrough C, there's a somewhat harrowing moment where I say harrowing, they're all machines, but the machines effectively turn on each other at one point. Like, there's some parts of the machine network goes super... they go basically into some sort of weird form of machine zombie. Let's put it that way. They corrupt in a way that no one was expecting. And so the friendly village sort of guardian collects the quote-unquote children to try and keep them safe and puts them somewhere else. And you go through a long, protracted sequence of protecting them and keeping them out of harm's way from a machine invasion. Only to discover, once you've completed it all the children had murdered themselves because the concept of fear was too much for them to bear, having been taught it as a part of their self-preservation skills. by the pastor, effectively, which then leaves you into with the choice of, do you wipe the pastor's memory? Do you kill the pastor? I'm calling him the pastor because that's the best word I can think of to sort of be this overseer character, Pascal. Or do you just leave them be to sort of wallow in their own misery, having lost their entire village and everything they've been working to achieve? And it's kind of dark at that point because most of the game had been sort of building up that this friendly village are, the good people, people you should protect, and then the game just says, despite your best efforts, screw you. Nasty. Good, well done as well, like cinematography wise and things like that. And the reactions to the choices are good as well. Just really nicely done. And I'd be remiss to talk about Nier without mentioning the very last thing the game has you do, which is the end sequence has you fighting the credits. So it goes into bullet hell mode, and you start shooting down the members of the Square Enix team and Platinum Games, and in a bullet hell section. But there's a sort of change in it halfway through where when you start facing Square Enix instead of Platinum, and then the game basically becomes ridiculously difficult and almost impossible to complete, to the point where I couldn't complete it. And after a few attempts of failing it, the game eventually goes, do you want some help? And you're like, not really, I think I can get through this. And you try again, and then you fail. And I failed I did this for quite a long time before succumbing to, because the game was, every time I was failing, the game was putting more messages on screen, supposedly from, that were named from, at this, and I'm not quite sure what that name was based on, what this text, where this text came from, but it was putting more and more of these messages on saying, you're not alone, and things like that. And it's like, okay, the game is steering me to using this help option, without being super obvious about it. It's, that's nice. So you make that. That's not the last choice though. So you make that choice, and all of a sudden you get a load of ships around you, all facing off as one. The music elevates, so there's now the end. The sort of what you thought was just the end credit sequence music now has a full chorus behind it and things like that. So you get that cool music evolution happening in the credit sequence, which is nice. When you get hurt, one of these little ships dies off. What you then realise, after doing through all that and completing it, the game then explains to you what just happened. In that the other ships that are helping you complete the credit sequence are, in theory, someone else's save game.
Right.
From people that have opted, having completed the sequence, to delete their own save game from their computer to give them one shot at helping another player. So at this point, you've sunk 50 hours into the game. And you have the option of getting rid of it all just to help someone else finish it. Now, how much of that is nonsense and it's just a fake out, no one really knows. But it's weighty. And that delete function for the people that have done it, that's a real delete. That will totally trash your save file and there's no recovery.
Did you do it?
No, I didn't. I had stuff to do. I had stuff to finish off. So, sorry, whoever died in the process of saving me. Really cool sequence. Because then it's it makes more sense, tying into the whole sort of rest of the game's message of existentiality, or however you would describe that. And what is the meaning of our purpose here, and what do you do with your life? And it's gives you the opportunity to sacrifice it for someone else's enjoyment, for someone else, and it's literally making you do that with the amount of time you've spent getting to that point. And it's that's cool. That's a really neat idea. Like it a lot. So those are my Nier moments.
Cool.
I was tempted to try and think of something from Hellblade as well, but I'm not sure there's any real one moment in that particularly stands out amongst it all.
Right.
It's the whole thing just sort of comes together. If I was to pick anything from it, I'd say the boss fight against Valravan is particularly cool. Just because of mechanically, it's very fun to play, and it's not actually about psychosis. This is just mechanically, it's a fun fight to actually take part in. does a lot of the sort of your standard chargey attacks, but then will sometimes phase out, meaning you've got to use your focus meter or or have a well-timed block. And I don't know, it's just nothing massively innovative there, but it's just well presented and good fun in an otherwise very heavy game. I'll stop talking now. Anyone else got any ideas?
Or did you not put basically the entire start of Zelda in there?
I mean, I guess that counts.
Because it's not necessarily
the whole
like...
do we want to say the whole Great Plateau in that?
Well, I don't know about the whole Great Plateau, but definitely the first few tens of minutes.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that amazing, like, in terms of the gameplay necessarily, but it's amazing for Zelda. It's like, you're like, if you have any expectation for what Zelda was going to be, then it's like, this is not that, and it's kind of surprising.
The fact that you're just sort of dropped in it with very little guidance, you mean, and it's just like, here's a world.
It's not, like, structured in any of the familiar ways that you were imagining.
Well, even for an open world game, it's structured quite...
I mean, the best moments are moments of discovery, where you're like, oh crap,
Well,
I found this.
there's that as well.
I quite liked
Like
first
discovering
arriving at like Zora's domain. That was a pretty good moment. But maybe that's just like because it was a well-designed place. I don't know if that worked really well.
Or is it like discovering any of the, like, you know, how Koroks work and the various...
Yeah.
Discovering a new way to find Korok seeds.
Maybe.
Don't know. I think the early parts, you're right. Yeah, are pretty good.
Because the early parts includes a lot of the discovery stuff.
Yes, it does, yeah.
You're working out what you can actually do.
Yeah.
Set fire to shit. And
Yeah.
mainly set fire to it.
What about...
I think to me, one of the more important
about-
moments of that opening is that bit where you first start heading towards Kakiriko and you start to realise the size of the world. You finally get a feel for how big that thing is. And it's like, that was a bit overwhelming at that point, because you're just like, oh boy. This is, I don't know, maybe I imagine that's entirely intentional. I think that was a great way to make you feel a bit like how Link must be. Well, no, I guess Link might not be, because he'd already know. Yeah. But yeah, as someone just experiencing that moment where it's just like, I've got to go over here, it's like, oh, this is a really long way. This map is enormous.
I think in terms of like specific moments that are designed, I guess there's the dragon on top of the mountain. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, that is a cool sequence.
That whole bit was a really good moment.
The floaty fight.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah.
Although I think I came to that quite late.
Yeah, me too.
What about Sonic Mania Mean Beat Machine? That was a good moment.
It's pretty solid.
if you know the fairly obscure reference there, I guess.
Pretty solid. That was quite unexpected.
And yeah, it was unexpected, and it was like, because it had the music, it was like, yeah, like, not only is this referencing that, it's referencing this properly. with recreating it fully, not just using the mechanic.
Well, even the bits that I know it's not not a great boss, and I think it's one of the weaker bosses. But the Metal Sonic stuff where they're throwing in Game Gear Metal Sonic at you, and it's playing Game Gear noises.
Yeah.
If you knew what that sounded like and why it's there, it's like that's cool.
But that part of the fight does suck.
Yeah, that's one of the worst boss fights in the game.
It's a massive pain in the ass until you find that there's actually just one specific tactic where it makes it guaranteed a hit every time.
Oh, really?
So you just have to do a specific thing in a specific spot, and it's guaranteed to work, and it makes that bit much less of a hassle every other time you go for it. But the first time, it's a nightmare. I don't know how long I spent.
I'm not sure I've discovered
room.
that true tactic yet.
I think you just have to like time a spin dash, like as soon as he goes, you go, and then it coincidentally bounces him like 3 times off the side of the screen and directly hits Metal Sonic.
From where? Like if you're both in bottom corners?
Yeah, in like opposite corners.
Right.
Yeah, that room was a nightmare the first time through.
Yeah. I was running out of time the first time I did it as well. Yeah, I timed out. I'm ashamed. That it?
Probably.
How do we narrow it down from that, look? That's a lot.
I don't know, what was your favourite?
The trouble is that there's like... You got these little bits of moments from one game, but then if we're picking an individual one, that makes it harder.
But do you feel that your Nier moments are stronger than any other game?
It's the thing, I don't know. It was badass, but I don't know if it really has... I do struggle. I think part of the problem with those moments is they're difficult to describe and they're difficult to explain because of the amount Nier hangs on the detail of its narrative. So while I'm explaining them to you now, like there's a certain element of I don't feel like I'm doing it justice because
No, it's impossible.
it gets to those points because of the build-up leading to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas a lot of the other ones we've talked about are just sort of... They stand alone, right? That you can experience that moment for the first time. You can find a world puzzle in The Witness, and just explain that epiphany is enough. Whereas I don't think it's definitely. I don't think it's the same. It's definitely not the same in Nier. It's a slow build. And approaching dread. That suddenly explodes.
I feel like out of the Mario stuff, it's the ending stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, has to be really.
I think that probably beats out.
What's the bit leading up to the Bowser escape? Can't really remember. Is there like another Bowser fight?
Yeah, you do the final Bowser Arena fight where he
You go to the chapel,
does the
right?
multiple direction tail spins. So that's the bit
yeah.
where it changes and you're like, oh shit, I have to learn how to not get hit again.
Yeah, and then I got tricked by the fake out where you start hitting him after avoiding that on the last one, and he's like, aha, no, I'm back.
Yeah.
In some ways, I don't know how I feel about some of those boss fighty bits in Mario. I know this is a bit of a tangent here, but it's...
Yeah, we could probably talk about that when we get to...
Yeah. Yeah, we'll come back to that. Yeah, I'm happy with that. The whole end sequence.
The craziness of it
Yeah.
in Mario. It's a great moment. The best
In many ways, it's like, as I say, I've just put Mario Moon here because maybe all of that is just wrapped up. Like the whole moon and everything that happens on the moon.
It's not even that, though. It's after the moon, really, isn't it? Like
In the moon,
I suppose.
you're still on the moon.
Yeah, I suppose you are. Once you get to the chapel or the church or whatever.
Moon Church.
The Moon Church.
Moon Church. You must have had to have built that church on the moon. What expense?
He didn't. It's in the brochure. It tells you about how there's the mysterious church on the moon that's really popular for weddings or whatever. The travel brochure tells you.
All the lore is there.
Yep.
You just need to read it.
I don't think I've read the moon one. I've read most of the others.
Tells you about the frog that's round the back of the church. The mysterious moon frog.
Yeah. I've forgotten about moon frog. Alright then. Best sequence, end escape, and general ending. Ending. In Mario Odyssey. Excuse me. The worrying trend of the year.
Rob's gas. Worrying trend of the year.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, that's worrying.
Yep.
Yuck.
There's an obvious winner, obviously. Obvious.
Is it? Oh, well, are there even any other nominations?
I've got one.
Okay.
The lack of the promise of VR. Lack of, compelling VR experiences.
Is that just because you haven't been paying attention, though?
In part. I hear Lost Echo is supposed to be kind of a thing.
It's worrying that Microsoft are falling behind on first party anything.
Yeah, I don't know if we raised that last year.
Probably.
But I suppose this year we had all the cancellations and the slips, right? Like Crackdown 3 was supposed to be this year and slipped, and Scalebound got cancelled. Actually, did Scalebound get cancelled last year? I really don't know when that got cancelled. The wound still feels fresh. I'm going to double check that because that's probably going to have to come up later if Scalebound did get cancelled this year.
I think. No, I don't
know.
The thing that I saw might have said it was meant to come out this year, not necessarily that it got cancelled this year.
Can't remember. But yes, they've had very little this year. At least next year they have, in theory, got Crackdown 3 and Sea of Thieves. And probably Horizon 4. If that's not loot boxed or all hell. So, there's some stuff coming from Microsoft next year. Some. Not a lot. Maybe Below will come out and they can shut up about it.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but they're obviously, the clear front runner here is loot box disasters. Now they are tainting the entire industry now. Or all of the AAA industry, I guess it's worth saying.
I don't know, there might be some in these, like Ark Survival Evolved,
Sure. I don't know, does
I mean,
that loot box?
That's not loot boxes, I guess that's DLC, but it's
that's dodgy.
DLC in an early access game that's sort of kicking. I mean, it's not early access any longer, it did actually come out. So it's as much as you call that coming out, finished at all.
Oh well, it's true. It's just a question of whether the Battlefront 2 thing made enough noise to stop the trend.
Well, this leads on to the
Probably not.
the subcategory of loot box loser of the year.
Which also is
fairly
not even
obvious.
a category.
Yeah.
It's EA, so okay, loot boxes and EA.
But it's worth shouting out that EA weren't alone in it this year. The Shadow of War stuff from Warner Brothers was pretty shady. That's a loot box system that has negatively impacted the completion of an otherwise good game. To the point where that's not going to be considered for very many awards this year, unlike the first game. Even though a lot of its systems are improved on the first game, loot boxes have ruined it. You went too far. Same with Forza 7. Loot boxes ruined that game's progression. And how you actually enjoy getting through that game, despite the racing still being solid. Then they're definitely not alone. But EA's Battlefront 2 kerfuffle, their reaction to it, and everything that's probably still to come.
The other EA games that still managed to come out and didn't make such a big deal because they were overshadowed by Star Wars.
Yeah,
Need for Speed.
Need for Speed is the one that's worth bringing up because that is again another game that is basically fundamentally broken because of because of the inclusion of loot box mechanics. That it is actually possible to be prevented from progressing based on random chance. And not even that, the random chance actually happens without you doing it sometimes, without you getting involved, because you have to wait for a random occurrence every 10 minutes to define what's in the shops, and if what you need isn't in the shops, you can't progress, and you've got to wait another 10 minutes. It's like, so there's loot boxes that define the loot boxes, kind of. It's like loot box squared. So double fail. Good job, EA. You have broken video games. Good job, Nintendo, for not paying any attention yet.
There'll only be like 2 or 3 more years before Nintendo suddenly realise what loot box means.
Yeah, then we're all in trouble. In the meantime, yay.
Do we want to do the Zachary Burgess brand action category?
What the fuck, not brand action?
Yeah.
I was looking at my list just at the names of these games, and there are a couple in name alone that are kind of fucked up. I mean, obviously, you might as well just say this every time one of these games comes out, but there's the Kingdom Hearts game.
Right.
Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue.
Prologue.
That's
Final chapter.
Final Chapter Prologue.
Wait, what? Is that what it's actually called?
Yep.
That's brilliant.
So yes, obviously Kingdom Hearts continues to have retarded names, as they always do.
Yeah.
Because they apparently just putting a number after Kingdom Hearts is not sufficient.
Or even a point release number.
Well, I guess, I mean,
Do they
lot
save
of
those
the-
for the collections, like 2.5?
Well, yeah, there's 2.5 remix and 1.5 remix. in case you weren't confused enough by that as well.
But then isn't there like a 2.6?
Well, this is the
HD
2.8, that's what I
collection?
said.
2.8, oh right, yeah.
HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue.
That's so good.
And then obviously, I mean, this barely counts because we already talked about it last year, but there's also, Total War Warhammer 2.
Oh yeah,
They continued to do that.
and they crapped that out quick.
They really did.
Man. Well, that kind of... That's a good pull, because that kind of overshadows everything I was going to say.
Does it though? Because can we give that to that game where it's just a sequel of a game we complained about last time?
No, but not that one. I mean Kingdom Hearts.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
Because, boy, that's a great name. I love it because they've got to the point where it is so stupid that it's hilarious.
I also don't like how they used a plus sign in Mario plus Rabbids.
Yeah, and that it's called Mario plus Rabbids, and that's how you're supposed to say it. Not Mario and Rabbids.
No. It's just a goddamn plus sign. Don't do that. It's not a word.
Yeah. Is that something we should have talked about as we mysteriously didn't care? I sort of
Kind
didn't
of,
care.
not really.
Yeah.
And I forgot it was called this, but there was the previous Pikmin game called Hey Pikmin. Only it's
Oh yeah, but it's Hey.
Hey with an exclamation
Pikmin.
mark, Pikmin. And I was thinking, like, is that a sequel to Hey Pikachu?
Like Hey Arnold.
But I don't think it's got any like voice control.
No.
Right, so it's not.
It's just like they just used the name.
Or Panic at the Disco. Although they changed that, which annoyed me.
Oh, was it Panic?
It was Panic with an exclamation mark at the disco, but they removed the exclamation mark. Like, no, it's not as good.
And also making reference to the other times we did this category, there was the Picross game called Picross S. What does the S stand for? Who knows?
Because
Picross. Lots of S.
What about the Xbox One X?
Yeah, exactly. Put
Or the
Picross S on
iPhone
the
X.
Xbox One.
Oh, sorry, 10.
yeah, the iPhone. Oh boy, the iPhone 10, that annoys me because like
That was brilliant. They did that on purpose.
I know,
I think
but-
that was a joke. Surely it's a joke, right?
Oh,
Because they just got rid of it.
I think they're just pretentious enough to think that's the coolest thing they've ever done.
Well, they got rid of OS 10 and renamed it to
OS
Mac
8.
OS. Which
Oh right, yeah.
because everyone always referred to it as OS X, even though it was OS 10. And they renamed it Mac OS, so there's no confusion. And then they introduced the iPhone 10.
Yeah, macOS is a weird one because they always
Clearly.
Roman numeraled their last few Mac releases leading up to that, right? I think 9 was like III.
Did they, though?
I think so.
I'm not sure they did. Maybe
not.
they did.
Clearly, Apple is just
But
following.
then they just marketed that as it's OS 10, but they marketed it with an X.
They do, yeah.
So
And
that's
there's
why
this-
everyone calls it X. It's like,
I
and now
know.
they're doing it again, and it's
They're
like
doing it again.
learn from your mistakes, bitches.
They're
It's
just
like,
following in the
if everyone wants
footsteps
to
of
call it
Mortal
X, it's
Kombat.
X.
Yeah, they've just...
From what?
They're just following in the footsteps of Mortal Kombat, where 10 is X.
I thought they were just trolling. 'cause
Well, they were.
They already know that everyone mispronounces it, so they brought it back. Anyway.
Mortal Kombat were trolling. Apple probably not. Apple were probably trying to be sincere about it.
Maybe.
What did they call that? They did a special edition of Mortal Kombat, didn't they? They had a really good play on X. Like Mortal Kombat Explicit Edition or something like.
Extreme.
It was something dumb, but actually quite clever. Yeah, anyway. I only put down ARMS as one of them, because that's a dumb name for a game.
Is it?
It's pretty dumb.
It's fine.
ARMS. And then, like, Puyo Puyo Tetris is a pretty ridiculous thing to exist.
Just a combination of the two names of the games that game's made on.
I know, but it's just a pretty ridiculous thing to exist, like, in terms of brand action.
I guess. Except, like, the Tetris brand is so weird anyway.
Yeah. Disney Dream Tetris, or whatever that game was called. And also, speaking of Disney and Kingdom Hearts and all that stuff, I actually, in terms of good game names, I think the Disney...
Which is not this category.
I know, but just special shout out to the Disney Afternoon collection. I think that's pretty great. Like referencing old games based on cartoons that used to be shown in kids' TV in the afternoon. I think it's a nice name. The Afternoon collection. So Kingdom Hearts then.
Yeah, definitely.
Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue. What a name. That's going to take some beating in future years.
We'll just wait until next year or another Kingdom
Well, no,
Hearts
because
comes out.
hopefully next year is Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, but what if they probably just jam something after a colon on the end of that for the hell of it? Dream drop distance or some other bullshit.
Kingdom Hearts 3. We finally got there, but not quite.
365.2. Whatever the fuck that one was called.
Oh, is it 364 days of sleep or something? Yeah. We did disappointing earlier, skipping ahead. These are all little things from here on up until the big thing. So I don't know. We could do the shout out for best patching updates, DLC, live content for a game, which basically is in my mind is a toss up between Shovel Knight's free Spectre Knight update for people that owned any previous version of Shovel Knight. Although they now sell just the Shovel Knight campaign separately. So if you bought in now and don't get the Treasure Trove edition, you only get the Shovel Knight part. But they now do the Treasure Trove. But if you bought Shovel Knight from the start, that was free for everyone who had it. And was pretty great. And of course, Splatoon 2, right? Who doesn't like free and constant updates?
Wow. I feel like the trouble...
And the Splatfest stuff, come on, that's amazing every time. Now it's even better with its, like, special levels.
Yeah, that does help. I think the trouble with Splatoon is that, like, it's constant, but it's not regular. It's just, like, random bits and pieces will appear occasionally. Here's a gun, and then, like, a couple of weeks later, here's two guns, just randomly, for no reason.
That's been an especially large amount recently as well.
Well, yeah, that was, like, a big update.
Yeah. What with a new game mode, new level, a couple new weapons. It's been, quite the... And the music not that long before. It's been quite the month of Splatoon action. Quite the month. Any other live game action that we've been paying attention to? Overwatch, I think, has not had the best of years for this stuff. Because it's basically repeated most of what happened last year, just throwing in a few more skins. Which is a bit of a shame. Other than, Chinese New Year at the start of the New Year was cool, because that was when they introduced Capture the Flag mode, which I really like in that game. Titanfall 2 added its co-op defense mode. But, that's nothing really to shout home about, I suppose. But at least they did it for free.
Rocket League continue to do their updates.
Yeah. I mean, the recent change to the Halloween and snow with decryptor keys is kind of cool, I suppose.
Kinda.
Because you could use those keys on there's some sort of free access to their crates, but maybe that's like the... Hey, buddy.
Obviously, it's the teaser.
This is the first hits for free.
Yeah.
The rest you got to pay for.
Although it was, in some ways, you have the slight disappointment with the Rocket League updates. It was like taking out all the weird shaped maps.
Sure, yeah.
They finally gave up and just said, no, not even Wasteland.
They slightly dumbed down their experience in some ways.
If you call that dumbing down,
yeah.
Standardising. But they didn't have to take them out of casual. That was the thing that we always said. It's just like, you can take them out of ranked, that's fine. You make ranked perfectly standardised.
And you can use the preference system if you don't like them to try and make it so they come up less often.
Yeah. Because really, that preference system has become entirely pointless now.
Yeah.
Unless you have a
real dislike for a certain theme.
And I did... now that I think about it, they did take Aquadome out, didn't they?
Did they?
I don't think I've...
Because that was the one that was primarily used in a lot of the Gfinity matches, was Aquadome.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen Aquadome since the patch where they took out the non-standard maps.
Interesting. You might be right, because I don't think it came up when we were playing the other night.
No.
Or the other two nights.
Because, the console players were always the ones complaining about Aquadome, because apparently it ran worse than anywhere else on the PS4 especially.
It had performance issues. I didn't realise that. I thought it would have less grass to render, so it would be alright.
Yeah, but it has all the water effects.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know why they took that out, but apparently they did. Because we haven't seen it. They did introduce the farmyard though, so woo, I guess.
Yeah. I can sort of understand perhaps because the Acrodome water effects did have problems sometimes with the ball
Yeah,
shimmer.
but they fixed that.
Oh, did they? I didn't,
That was one of the
realise.
first patches for Aquadome.
Ah.
Change it so the effect doesn't interfere with the other effects that are actually part of the game.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So Splatoon? Although the Shovel Knight update is pretty good for people that own it, and it's better than the last one by a long way. They pulled out all the stops for that one. It's good. But Splatoon. Clearly Splatoon. Well played. I mean, other than the EA loot box fiasco, what was the dumbest thing in video games this year? I've got 2 releases that I thought were pretty dumb. One of them was the Bubsy play.
Yeah, okay.
Because why is that? Why? Just why? Who thought that was a good idea?
Someone heard about Sonic and was like, yeah, we can do that.
Oh, apparently it's awful.
Well, yes, they couldn't do that.
And also, the HD re-release of Constructor?
Don't know necessarily that's a terrible idea.
It's a pretty terrible idea.
Well, the fact that they put in any effort to it is kind of surprising.
Yeah. And a console release of it as well?
That was probably a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because you never want to play that. I mean, I think City Skylines did come out on consoles this year, so
Yeah.
I guess they can do it.
It's weird, though. It's weird. Any of those sorts of games on consoles is a bit weird. Unless they've come up with some fancy way of doing the interface.
Well, I'm sure they have. They have some. I mean, even going way back to like SimCity and stuff had some fairly smart ways to have interfaces on consoles.
Sure. If Scalebound was cancelled this year, if I can figure out when that actually happened.
It's your dumbest thing.
Yeah, it's pretty dumb. It's really annoying. I'm just looking forward to that thing.
I was trying to think of if there was any particular, like, any especially bad Kickstarter disasters this year. Not really.
No.
It was all last year.
Yeah, I guess. I suppose we could argue that Atari box seems pretty dumb.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, it's like the weirdness of Atari trying to jump on the bandwagon that Nintendo is doing. Where it's like, we're remaking our old consoles, but small. And then Atari's like, yeah, we can do that. It's like, no, I don't think you can.
Oh well, no wonder we're a bit confused about when Scalebound got cancelled. The news broke around the 9th of January. So it was like super early in the year that came out. So it did happen.
What else was done? Knack 2?
Knack 2?
Knack 2, baby!
I hear Knack 2's alright.
Compared to the first game, maybe.
Yeah. The fact that both Dan and I last year said we'd get a PlayStation this year and haven't.
Well, but Dan has a perfectly good reason for that.
Yeah, because Red Dead didn't come out.
Exactly.
And you just bought a Switch instead, so
Yeah,
adequate reason.
that was my decision this year. The Switch one. Right, I think we'll just move on from that.
Yeah, I don't think there's been any especially dumb things.
Just loot boxes.
Yep.
Do we want a special shout out for innovation?
What have we got in there apart from?
So, Hellblade for its innovative approach to dealing with psychosis and how it's represented.
But is it that innovative, or are we just looking
Some of
at
it is, some of it isn't.
the classics like whatever that game was called, the old
Oh, what do you call it? The GameCube one.
the
Eternal
GameCube.
Darkness.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that was clever. Well, it's not doing quite so much fourth wall breaking
Sure.
as, like, in fact, Hellblade doesn't do that specifically. But just its approach to how it tells storytelling in world, how the various psychoses are represented is cool and well thought through. Even if mechanically there's nothing particularly interesting going on, it's doing stuff with portals and perception, and it's more of a presentation thing, I think. They go out of their way to get it right. The Switch
Yeah.
for not only coming up with its mobile, not mobile concept, but actually pulling it off in a way that works.
In a way that isn't dodgy.
And isn't too much of a compromise. It's a compromise in some ways, for sure, but it's mostly pretty good.
It mostly works exactly as their little trailer said it would.
Yeah.
Apart from the, all the ridiculous, good-looking 20-somethings on a rooftop part.
Sure, yeah.
I'm sure that happens.
I'm sure that does happen, yeah.
I think I've heard it happen exactly once.
Anyway.
I have heard of people bringing a Switch... actually, I take it back. I have heard of people taking a Switch round to a party with 1-2 Switch loaded on it and using it in tabletop mode to do that thing in the ads.
Oh, yeah.
I have heard that happen.
Fair. It's not about Mario Kart for that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, Ho brought her Switch to my party, but with Jackbox. But that could have been a PC, to be fair, because we plug it to the TV and everyone used their mobile.
Yeah, if I need to do that, I'd just take a laptop.
Yeah, exactly.
Somewhere.
I think that's the one part of the Switch advert that probably isn't going to happen, is the 2 dudes playing Mario Kart in the back of a car, using the 2 halves of the Joy-Con while the Switch is mounted on the back of the headrest.
If you could mount it.
You could do that,
sick,
but I wouldn't want... Because it's a tiny screen you have to look really hard at while you're in a moving car and you're playing a driving game. That's just like...
But car TVs are about that size, aren't they?
True, but you're not normally having to pick out... Also, it's only half. Because you're half of the screen.
That's true. Well, if they each had a Switch on each headrest, they'd be okay.
I guess.
Yeah, and they'd add hooked it together and...
Yeah, you can do that.
That would be better. But 2 Switches. That was not the marketing thing they were going for, was multi-Switch.
2 halves of the Joy-Con.
Unless you're pro gamer and you're a Splatoon clan, then that's the only time you're allowed to use multiple Switches in one place, according to Nindy. Or the NBA thing, right? I don't think anyone's going to bust out a Switch at a skate park and play NBA.
That was 2 Switches.
Was that 2 Switches? Oh yeah, because 2 on 2.
Back to back.
Yeah.
No, that's fun. Right.
Snake Pass for its snake control.
Cool.
That's a neat one.
Didn't quite stretch through a whole game, but cool.
No, but it sort of did. They put out the whole but that game was just about the right length.
Yeah.
But but that control scheme was kind of neat. Some interesting stuff there. And Zelda for its what I had to try and explain. What I had to try for not being Zelda, but more specifically, I think the major innovation is the line that is what's been come to known as line of sight map design.
I don't think that is that much of an innovation. I think it's just because they've called it out. Like, they pointed it out that I'm sure in normal design work that's just something that happens.
I'm sure like in terms of like I think specifically that must happen in like multiplayer map design, right? For like shooters and things like that, they have to be thinking about those things.
But
maybe when you're talking about a large
game, you think about that to some extent. Like when you're standing up on this hill because we sent you there for a mission objective, what do we want you to see?
Maybe, but I don't know if it's ever been quite so. I don't know if that like in many other open world games where the visual of what I'm looking at in the world has been what guides me to a thing instead of a marker on the map or something on the map.
Yeah.
In Zelda, like almost everything you do is because you can. Oh, sure, don't get me wrong.
In Skyrim or whatever,
but not to this extent where the entire game and your exploration of the world hinges on it.
Yeah, that's true.
But you're probably right. Yeah, it's probably not something that exists, but it's just been called out as being, "Hey guys, this is how you should do it this year." You know, Assassin's Creed, take note. Basically.
Got any innovations?
No. I mean, technically the Dirt 4 track generator.
Yeah, that's true.
But if only that was better.
But those sorts of things have existed before.
Well, yeah, that's what we've been saying about all of these things. It's like none of this is actually innovative, it's just...
In many ways, it's like Dirt 4's thing is it's nice to see the return of a track generator, not necessarily that it's something that hasn't been done before.
No.
Cats attacking the tree again.
Yeah, it's time for the annual tradition.
Yeah.
Of cats in trees. Late to the party this year. But...
Yeah, just a little bit.
Also, generally, the cat, it's taken you a long time to suddenly become interested in it. we've got away from it most of this year.
The cat's really bored of our Game of the Year podcast.
Yeah, I think so.
Decided to interrupt.
Sorry.
I think it's about that time, eh, chaps?
It is about that time, chaps. Let's get down to it.
Righto.
Well, luckily,
Thank you.
we don't
Fanfare,
have much to
please.
talk about.
No. What is there to say?
Well, it's Mario vs. Zelda. That's pretty much
Yes.
it.
I thought Nier was going to be on your list, but it's not even on there.
Oh, that's a
That's a
I thought
mistake.
it was. That is a mistake. It should be there.
Okay.
I mean, yeah,
not
there are definitely some games on my list that I think made more of an impact on me than both Mario and Zelda this year.
Such as?
Well, Hellblade is something special, Nier is something special, and Splatoon 2 is possibly the most fun I've had in video games for a long time.
Oh, really?
Apart from Rocket League, maybe. I love Splatoon 2 so much. Despite my complaints of it being Splatoon 1 plus,
Yeah.
Splatoon 1 was pretty amazing. And more of it is no bad thing. And I think I may be having more fun with this one than I had the last one. It's just a quality thing. And I think I've put way more time into Splatoon than... Oh, well, I haven't put more time into Splatoon than I have Zelda.
No.
But in terms of any other multiplayer game I've played this year, even the ones I was deep into, like Overwatch and things like that, it's just taken over. That's the game that does it for me. And that's kind of a big deal.
So, given that it's Mario and Zelda, what's your runner-up between, like, Nier and Splatoon 2?
And Hellblade.
And Hellblade.
Out of those three, Splatoon 2.
There we go.
For sure.
Okay.
But,
I don't-
but those, as I've mentioned earlier, those other two super important games this year, I think. And,
For sure,
and ones both of you should try and find time to play.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if you will, because you probably won't like either of them, but
Probably not.
they are. I think they are landmark games this year.
No, interested in Hellblade too?
I'm slightly more interested in Nier.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I see Dan being more likely to play Hellblade
Maybe.
if you can get over the heavy tone, and I see Zach way more likely to play Nier because he'll put the time in to see it through.
Yeah. Multiple times.
Yeah.
And also generally slightly more comfort with JRPGs.
Not that it's exactly a JRPG.
But Japanese
ish.
storytelling, I suppose,
Yes.
maybe.
Yeah. Well, don't
Yeah.
mind about that. Okay.
This basically leaves the big discussion down to the obvious two, Zelda and Mario.
Yeah.
How do we to
So-
rip these apart?
So,
I have a very simple way to do it, and that's my one argument that I'm going to put forward for it.
because I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, Zach, so go ahead.
Well, the obvious argument is that Zelda should win because it's not just another Zelda game,
Right.
and that's it.
Is that it?
Is that your argument?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they made
I-
a really goddamn good Mario game, and it's great, but they made a
Yeah.
new Zelda game that's actually new.
That is it. I thought you...
But if you want to boil that argument right down,
More than that already was.
yeah, but Zelda doesn't really do anything massively new itself. As we just proved with our line of
Kind
sight
of.
discussion,
Well-
but all it does is it just takes the best elements of every other open world game that's happened.
Perfect. That's
And
ideal.
blends them together.
And
It's like-
and does have a unique twist on these things. Like Nintendo always do things in a, when they copy an idea, or at least they'll take more Western ideas, they always put like a twist on it. It's not like copy and paste.
oh, sure.
Like for example, the kind of environmental combat. Like they put the physics in, right, which has been going since Half-Life 2 or whatever, and hasn't been in these games before. But then they managed to combine that with things like the fire and the updraft and
temperature
it's just all the
systems.
combinations of everything is and they made it a fun system in a way that, because physics-based gameplay is not, innovative at this point, but it's almost gone away. Or now it's like a decorative thing where everything is physicsed in a good PC game, but no longer does it contribute to the gameplay in the way that was super obvious when it was new in something like Half-Life 2.
I
Or in
suppose,
some cases, it's actually really annoying, like Skyrim,
Yeah.
where you just can't put shit on a table.
Exactly,
It explodes.
because all physics is and open world physics, of course, is notoriously janky. So the fact that they managed to get that right in Zelda, well, obviously
Well,
there's some jank, but
yeah, because in many ways, I have to stop saying that. That is my phrase in many ways because it's like there is one very clear way in this particular case where that is different because they simplified it. Right, the physics of objects in Zelda. There aren't that many objects that are constantly having physics, as we know it, applied to them in the same way.
It's not masses of particles.
They'll get like stuff will land on the floor and become static, and like weapons and stuff. Weapons won't get like exploded around while they're on the floor, and it's like
do they though?
I think they kind of might do.
If you put a bomb on a pile of weapons,
Well, they fly everywhere.
I don't know if I've ever seen it with weapons. I've seen it with minerals.
But that's the thing, isn't it? That is almost the point. Even whether they do or they don't doesn't matter because that wouldn't contribute to gameplay if they did.
unless they became damaging, if they turned into a projectile,
And smacked into people. Yeah.
like you can with the magnet.
Yeah, the magnet boomerang trick.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought, Zach, that you might argue that Mario was better. But so, yeah.
Well, it's a better overall construction of a product. Like Zelda, you can see it's like quite sparse, but I mean, partially deliberately, but you can tell that it's just like a first attempt at an open world game, and so they couldn't make the mechanics that deep, and there's some amount of sacrifices for just building a really big world, and like.
You think?
Well, I think they replaced I think perhaps some of that is present in the busy work elements of that game, right? Your constant inventory management, and breaking weapons, and the constant gathering,
and that there's just like.
I like the gathering though.
I'm not saying it's not enjoyable, but it can be seen as like perhaps this is
and there's just like
something
900
to fill the void of activity.
There's just like 900 Koroks, and like yes, there's different types of Koroks, but that's the one collectible.
The problem with the Koroks is like it's great while you're discovering new Korok techniques,
different kinds of Koroks.
but then when you've seen the same one 20 times,
but you don't have to be completionist about Koroks. Like most people won't be. Like,
which is great because a lot of them are really hard to spot, especially like leaves at the top of the trees ones. Yeah. It's like who's going to climb every tree and make the Korok appear?
I just think, that is a good argument. The main argument, right? That Zelda innovated in its constraints, and in ways that it really pulled off. Like honestly, old Zelda games, like they're all, a lot of them are great, but oftentimes if I got to the start of a temple or something like the water temple, I would just save and quit because I'd be like, no, I'm not doing 2 hours of this right now.
Yes, you're getting into.
Yeah, whereas
then they'd already solved that problem in the last, what's the 3DS Zelda?
Well, I mean that's
by making the dungeons considerably shorter.
Yeah, but that's not relevant. Well, that's not that relevant to this conversation because that's just the indication of this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Nintendo have learned that they need to switch things up with Zelda a bit.
Yeah, and
they did in the handheld and the full game.
I think
true.
I think if one of my major criticisms, I think of this Zelda. I know I'm being the voice of. I'm intentionally being the down voice here because I am big on Zelda as well, but. I think I would have liked to have seen larger scale shrines effectively. If the shrinkage of the dungeon concept was the shrines, I think having the odd one that was like the size of 3 or 4 shrines and was a more complex integrated experience and perhaps didn't look like a shrine or
that's
have the
the
shrine
thing.
music.
It's also that they would need like to be different theming per one or whatever.
Maybe that's basically what the beasts were. They were like smaller than dungeons, but larger than shrines.
The problem with the beasts is they mechanically were actually some of the weakest elements in the game, right?
I enjoyed them all. I think all the beasts.
I think they were a nice change of pace.
Yeah.
But if I was to say, would I ever do a beast again over any one of the shrines? No. I would probably pick any one of the shrines over doing the beast challenges.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, that's because they're a bit more, well, I don't know. I feel like they're more bite-sized.
The beasts had like kind of more awkward takes on some of the mechanics sometimes.
That's true.
Like, I think it was a little bit harder to see what the flow of that beast was supposed to be, like the flow of how you're supposed to get through it. And maybe that was intentional. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they wanted a more non-linear,
a little bit of a puzzle.
I mean, it was cool having a pint-sized dungeon where you could manipulate like the whole thing in different ways, like moving the salamander or like moving the neck of the water spout, or moving the camel thingy.
But then
That
it
was
also
cool.
became a little bit disappointing when you realised all of them were a gimmick in that way.
Well, that tied them
Like a
together.
movement gimmick.
They were all different, but they all involved
Just like,
a
a
movement
similar
of
concept.
the whole world. Not world, but little mini world.
Mm.
Yeah, so yeah, I quite like that.
I think I felt like I fudged some of the solutions. Right, like wasn't sure that the way I'd done it was.
Well,
I
that
know
was
that's
part of that game.
I know that's part of it, but it doesn't always feel quite as satisfying sometimes when you feel like I was like, I'm not 100% sure I was supposed to be able to make that. I climbed up to a weird place and just glided over there and got through a gap that I don't think I was in. That can't have been the proper way to solve this.
Well, it was the climbing inside, like particularly the camera wall, because like the
With the
cylindrical
rotatey bits.
cylindrical body made it really awkward to tell whether you were meant to be able to climb things because is it just sloped at just enough angle that I can run up there, or do I have to like dodgily climb because of the way it's like the shrine stone or whatever, the stuff that you can't climb inside the beasts, where you're not meant to be able to climb, but if you angle it just right, you can run up there. And then re-angle it while you're standing on that ledge, and then walk over the angle of the ledge as it's rotating. And it's like that feels a bit
dodgy.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was to be super
But it was
critical
cool.
of the beast design, I think a lot of the actual puzzle quote unquote solutions were sort of things that sort of just happened. You know, so you do a thing and a thing happens, but you didn't really put the thought process into, I need to do this to cause that. Especially some of the long or more vertical bits of animal you needed to make move, either by hooking up some of those power lines or doing something so a large portion of the animal moves, and it's like, oh right, now I can access that part of the thing. I wasn't intending to do that, but I can see that I now can.
But you know that you're trying to connect the power lines to the right
Sort
thing. You
of,
just don't know
but
what they're going to turn on.
some of it was more like discovery by accident than by intent. It's like, I've just got to do this thing because it looks like something I can do. Is it going to do a thing? Oh, it did a thing. What does that thing mean? Oh, now I can do this. And it's like... Sometimes I think I'd quite like to have felt like I meant to make that happen. and I don't think I got that quite so much. And let's not forget those beast boss fights.
I like that.
I think,
They were a bit too easy. Well, apart from the one of them was.
I thought
was
the first
hard.
one was pretty rough.
The one in the desert one was pretty tough.
yeah.
Yeah.
I never
Which
really
one was that?
the one that just teleports
camel
around.
one.
The
Oh,
lightning.
yeah.
Teleport guy.
I never really got that. I just tanked it.
Yeah.
I've got so much health at this point. I can just take the hits.
Because you're supposed to grab the rods or whatever.
And put them in his face.
Yeah, but that's a little bit hard to
Well, it's a
do.
bit hard to predict where they're going to land,
Yeah.
and then when they land, you've got a limited amount of time to actually push one in the face before it explodes.
But
It's
probably the water.
pretty tricky.
Probably the water one was one of the better ones because
Yeah.
it was actually a specifically designed arena
Yeah.
that had mechanics
Yeah, it was
and
cool.
different stages.
I had trouble with the camera on that one, where it seemed to not want to lock to him, so I had a real hard time getting it to... Admittedly, I guess at that point in the game I might have still been getting
Get
to
used
grips
to it,
with
yeah.
things, but I had a real hard time making it face the trouble that was going to hurt me. And then you fall off into the water and you've got to get back on those little plimps and you're vulnerable during that entire time. I felt like I was just fumbling my way through that, and because of the food system, it's just like, I just keep propping myself up. Like you say, I'll just tank it. I'll take the damage, fire off my shots, because I don't feel like I can defend this properly.
I actually thought that Mario was a little over-reliant on boss fights, ironically, compared to Zelda. Like, in the main story. If you do, beeline the story, or not that anyone does, but, that's the way you get through, right? There's
Yeah,
a lot of boss
and I think
fights.
most of Mario's boss design is fine, with the
But not-
exception of the Broodals. And the repetition of the Broodals.
And
the repetition
they
of
work,
Bowser to some extent. It's
but they're not, surprising or anything.
No.
Yeah, because it's, hat stuff.
I kind of wish the Broodal, you didn't have to fight the Broodals as much, because if you do the final challenge, you fought them 3 separate times each?
Yeah. I think it's
That's
a bit
too much. That's too much.
Yeah.
Given how good the design of the non-Broodal boss fights are,
Yeah.
pretty much across the board, I'm struggling to think of a terrible one.
I mean,
Even though the hard versions the hard version of the Centipede boss I thought was a little cheap at times, but because I had trouble getting my shots to land, which felt a bit weird. It's like, I'm shooting at the glowy part. Why is the glowing part not counting as being hit? So I had a bit of a problem with that one. But they're generally super solid designs. Even the friggin' dragon fight, right?
Yeah.
I'm fighting a dragon.
Another thing is like a classic thing is like Mario's core movement mechanics is like obviously they pretty much perfected them in 1996, but like they're like incredibly solid, right? And in terms of Zelda's core mechanics, I reckon there is some room for improvement in the combat.
Well, yeah, that was one of the things that they didn't expand upon enough. Really.
No.
Well, at the time when we were starting to play this, I do think the combat is weaker than previous Zelda games.
Or it's relatively weak, or they haven't improved as much as other aspects. Like, it's just the sword and shield stuff
it's different,
and the set targeting stuff. It isn't quite right.
It's not quite as sharp as
it's perfectly good and serviceable. It's just not as perfect as something like Mario.
No, and I have had some of the classic problems where I've been attacked by something off screen, and there's not been much of an indication of that coming, and it's like, how do I deal with that when I'm surrounded?
Yeah.
And it's like, Zelda's only real answer is don't be surrounded.
Yeah.
And it's
always stealth and then draw them out one at a time. Like,
yeah. But I like that kind of gameplay personally. Yeah. That's cool.
I mean,
I like a little more indication, like even if it's just even if things are attacking from off screen, but if there's some sort of like even because I'm playing Hand of Fate 2 at the moment, and even they will do a little red indicator off the side of the screen if there's something coming at you from off screen.
But Zelda isn't about indicators.
No.
They didn't want any UI on that thing.
I know, but it's like, but I do think it suffers. As a result.
I think I forgot about the HUD thing because I think I've been on Pro HUD for like the whole game, so I forgot that you could have extra stuff. Yeah.
Oh, what's the extra stuff you can turn on? Because I just had it on the defaults the entire time.
That's what I meant. The Pro HUD is less.
Yeah.
Get rid of the sound meter and the temperature gauge.
Yeah, get rid of those. Yeah.
The sound meter's kind of pointless anyway, yeah.
Bits and pieces.
Yeah. I got rid of those.
You want the weather gauge, though? Weather gauge is important.
Oh, for when...
I need to know when I can't climb.
Yeah. Oh, man, that game's so good. I mean, yeah. I really like Mario, but I think Zelda's the best game I've played in a very long time.
If I want to counteract my own sort of intentional negativity, there's a lot going on in Zelda.
Yeah,
like if I
was to say like the writing is just ridiculously good.
Yeah. If I was to say that the parts of Zelda may be simplified, that's fine. They are, but there's a lot of parts.
It comes together, doesn't it?
So even if the weather system is perhaps a little overly simple, even if the fire system isn't Far Cry's fire system, even if the physics, probably not Half-Life 2's physics system or whatever, it's like, it's all simplified.
So it's the Havoc engine, so technically it is.
It always a Havoc underneath.
I'm pretty sure it says that at the start of the game, doesn't it?
I don't know, I very rarely actually took the game out while I was playing it.
You don't really see the start of the game. Just make sure you turn it off occasionally because of the blood moon bug.
That's gone away, right?
I'm not entirely certain. That
I don't think I ever experienced the blood moon bug.
And the fact that the games we're talking about for Game of the Year are mobile games is amazing, in a way. There are games you can play on the bus, or the games that you do play, by carrying your system to someone else's house. Yeah.
And you could...
I mean, it's such a stunning success.
I know this conversation has gone very one way so far, but I'm on the Mario side.
Right,
if I'm being honest, out of the two.
You're definitely wrong.
because Mario simply brought a bigger smile to my face.
Right, fair enough.
Because I think Zelda does what it does very well. But in many ways, it's it's a lot of that thing for like 100 hours.
Mario has,
and it's like whereas Mario I think mixes it up way more over its lifespan, and I don't think it outstays its welcome, whereas I began to felt like Zelda outstayed its welcome.
Oh, I'm not there yet.
At like the 80-hour mark, admittedly.
I've got to fight some Lionels and shit.
See, that's something I've not really got too involved with, because that was just... I don't know, I didn't enjoy the Lionel fights at first, even the way it pushed you into
really hard.
Yeah, but then you get to the point where you can fight them.
Yeah.
And then they overstay it, so it's like too many goddamn Lionels.
Yeah, I'm not going to fight them all.
And I haven't finished that thing. I haven't even decided to go against all the millions of Guardians, of which I hate fighting, because I don't feel, even at this point in the game, I don't feel adequately equipped to deal with
Guardians
them.
are incredibly easy though.
Oh, I hate them. They just murder me.
Once you get,
even without the Master Sword, really. I mean, the Master Sword makes it trivial.
Yeah.
if you happen to have the Master Sword charged.
Do you ride around on a horse, do you? Or
No, you just find the nearest slight elevation so you can glide at least most of the way up to them, because that buys you a lot of time before they spot you if you're even slightly above them.
That's true.
Drop down, chop all the legs off, and then just stab them.
Stab them up.
I always felt disappointed when I found one when I was just exploring. And it's
What,
just
because
like,
you
I want to
couldn't
go,
explore the
go
area?
here, and it's like, there's a mobile guardian and there's no cover.
The ones that suck are the aerial guardians, because there's not really shit you can do about
Yeah,
that.
they're annoying. Yeah, that's true. Apart from shooting them with
Ancient arrows.
ancient arrows,
Yeah.
which cost a bundle. Yeah, man. But you know, just even stuff like the Tarry Town stuff is like really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you would bit down on it, but I don't mind the Rito Village. I quite like it.
What? I wasn't down on that.
You were disappointed at that section.
I was disappointed in it being very small.
Yeah,
like it's,
yeah, me
it's-
too.
No, it's really
Yeah.
tiny.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
not a
what I'm
length, and they don't do a great deal with it, really. You go to the training grounds, do a thing,
Yeah,
and then
and
you're
the training
suddenly-
grounds
and
aren't
then
even
you're
that much of a thing.
No.
and then you're suddenly on the beast.
Yeah, I think that's the point about that area is because you've been in the east and it's huge. You
And,
think,
you know,
I'll
the-
go west and it'll be just as huge, and it isn't quite as big.
And it's not.
Because there's a lot of like side quests and stuff in Zora's Domain. There's not even that many side quests in.
No,
well, I guess
no.
there's a few.
The whole
Not as many.
The whole lead up to Zora's Domain makes that area the best.
So
Because
good,
it's like the
yeah.
fact you have to walk up that path, and the fact that
Yeah, that was great.
you're probably doing that at an early phase in the game,
Yeah,
right, where you
so
don't
it's
have the
dangerous.
skills to do it many other ways.
Yeah,
And it's like
and that was really
if you
clever
do it at that
how
point in time, it's a great
how there's
segment.
like a story reason why it's raining constantly and you can't climb
Yeah.
around everything. That was really well done, and
Because you couldn't cheese it.
yeah. Oh man, yeah.
And in fairness, as much as I dislike Mifa's voice acting, that storyline was one of the better sub stories.
Yeah, just switch that shit to Japanese. You're sorted. That's what I did. Well, once they patched that in.
Oh sure, I forgot that wasn't a thing at first.
It originally wasn't in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hard to see how they could have done it that much better. Obviously, there's a few missteps in there, but I mean, what a great comeback from Nintendo. That we're talking about Mario and Zelda for Game of the Year.
Well, then the trouble is, like,
Splatoon.
the next games are the hard ones.
Oh yeah,
Because, like, the next Mario game, they can't do the Mushroom Kingdom again. They've expended the nostalgia play.
yeah. I mean, now it's getting to the point of worrying about what they're going to do next. But
In fairness, it's probably going to be a very long time
Yeah.
until they do a Mario again.
let's
Yeah.
focus on these
And
because
probably at least another 3 years until they do a Zelda again. We'll see those Wii U re-releases come to Switch next, right?
I guess,
they'll put out Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD, and maybe Skyward Sword HD.
Yeah, possibly.
Although Skyward Sword HD would be tricky because of its reliance on motion controls, maybe, which they can do with the Switch.
They might be
but-
able to jif it with the Joy-Cons.
Yeah. But then the Joy-Cons that game had pointer stuff as well, which is the one thing the Wii U can't. The Switch can't do. Is that right?
It might be able to. Like, it might.
One of them can.
Yeah.
But maybe. But then where's yeah? Anyway, I don't know how any of that will work. But yeah, we'll see those before we see another fully fledged Zelda for sure.
Maybe. I don't know. It's possible they might. It's possible that they might make a new Zelda relatively quickly on this engine or whatever.
if they do a Majora's Mask on it, that would be cool. Do you know what I mean?
I think they'd do
like
that as
a twist on
DLC
it.
though.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
See what they do.
Because Majora's Mask in many ways. I've said it again. It's starting to bug me.
I don't know. It's
Majora's
quite a big
Mask
game.
is quite a lot. Yeah, it's quite a big game, and it's a full-fledged Zelda game.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a DLC pack in
for
some.
Ocarina, yeah. In some ways. I think that's a good template to go with. But a real twist on it.
Ocarina of Time 2.1 HD remix.
Final Shadow Frozen.
Yep.
So where are we at? There's 2 votes for Zelda and 1 for
I know I'm overruled, and I know
Yeah.
but it's hard to feel bad about it, right? This year.
Yeah.
I played Mario this year.
2 votes for Mario. It's like the only other game no one's played this year.
2 this year.
What was the other one?
Simpsons. Okay.
Oh yeah, Simpsons
Yeah,
Arcade
okay.
Game. Yeah, that we played last week.
I think it's just like it's a fairly obvious result of
Yeah.
the only reason Zelda wins really is because of its innovation in its own genre. Because
Yeah.
Mario is just another Mario game. It's a bloody good Mario game, and it's so well constructed, and it's got all the little details, and it's really nicely constructed, and it's not buggy or anything.
Yeah.
There's no problems.
And if you want to talk about risk taking, it's bonkers out there.
The bonkersness of it is great.
That's the one thing that is innovative about it.
Yeah, but
They
I like
basically
the
took their own
consistency
law.
of tone of Zelda as well, personally. I like craziness, but I prefer, I think... Not that I'm saying Mario should have been more straight, because I don't think so. I think I embrace the bonkersness of it.
You could argue they've done the straight approach before, right?
Yeah,
Because that's what 3D
exactly.
Land and 3D World were
Well,
trying
Mario
to be,
64
right?
is yeah, I don't know. It's
Well, I don't know if
not bonkers.
Mario 64 was early enough in the cycle where I think we
Yeah.
could say anything would have gone in Mario 64 and it would have been fine.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah.
they took a lot of... I mean,
Yeah.
it's Super Mario Sonic Adventure time. And,
Don't make that analogy. No.
real-sized humans, man.
Oh, yeah.
Still a bit weird. What is Mario? What is Peach?
A classic question.
How big? Luigi's nose must be as big as a regular human head.
Not quite.
Right.
Well, that's that.
That's
Yeah,
that.
all
Anything
right.
more to say?
All right.
Happy Salad Game of the Year 2017 is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
How boring of us.
Because it's freaking awesome.
I know.
Yeah.
Even if it had been Mario, that would have been a boring choice as well. They're both equally likely
Yeah.
to win Game of the Year.
But Zelda is slightly better.
Yeah. Apparently, the general consensus is that
Yeah.
Zelda is the Game of the Year overall.
Well,
Fast
it is.
RMX.
That barely came out this year on technicality.
It's effectively a re-release.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool, thanks for joining us, guys. I'm
We're
sure
going to do
you're
best hype for 2018.
shocked. Red Dead Redemption 2, best game of 2018.
No!
So
that's already settled.
I shut it down. We're not doing this for a year. Shut it
Okay,
down.
shut it
Saladcast
down.
is taking a holiday for a year.
That's already decided.
It still might be terrible.
It might be. It's true.
Can you imagine open world janky physics on those swinging horse balls?
Oh yeah,
gonna go so wrong.
You got to model those horse balls. That's the instant win.
It's going to go so
Game
wrong.
of the year. It's got horse ball physics.
Actually, no, it would win if it janked.
Whee!
If the balls just fly into the sky,
Right,
taking the horse with them.
stuff to look forward to.
Well, what if you end up with that animation bug like there was on the PS3 version of Red Dead Redemption, where things
It's not going to be
things
like that,
had the
though.
wrong models put on them, but animated like the original things, so the horse balls become like a man face. It could happen. We've seen it before, man. We've seen it before.
Why do we have a most hyped each award? Mine goes to Red Dead. Zeg, what are you most hyped for?
I don't know. It's probably Metroid Prime 4 at this point, but I feel like there's definitely going to be other games coming out next year.
No one knows anything about
I think there's
Metroid.
going to be a lot that we haven't heard about yet
Yeah.
to be revealed. I mean, I've got a quick list. Like, Anthem is supposed to be next year.
It's true.
And my hype for that has dropped significantly in the wake of all the EA disasters this year. I don't think EA have put out a good game this year. Let's put it think of it that way. Biomutant looks cool, but we don't really know what that is in terms of an actual game, but the concept is fun. Spider-Man.
Spider-Man I'm pretty hyped for.
Get hyped for Spider-Man.
Weirdly. Another reason to buy PS4.
Crackdown 3. No one cares about.
No.
Freedom Planet 2 looks cool, but not most hype, but I like that Sega aesthetic. Onrush could be interesting. Project Octopath Traveler, still in theory coming out next year.
I don't think that's much of a hype.
No, not that hype.
No. Partial hype.
Runner 3,
Also partial hype.
partial hype.
Because you know what that's going to be, pretty much.
Soul Calibur 6. Tale of Two Swords, eternally retold,
At least 6 times.
at least 6 times. And possibly my current front runner, Sea of Thieves.
Right. That's
Sea
it.
Sea of Thieves sounds cool.
Got Sea of Thieves,
March 20th, get hype.
Red Dead 2, and whatever Zachtronics come up with in 2018.
Yeah, they might have managed to release at least one game. Although their last game only just came out, so
Maybe not.
it might be the January next year rather than, next
2019.
year. Yeah.
Jeez.
I'm just saying, Nintendo better put out a direct soon. Soon.
We shall see. Anyway, thank you for joining us for Happy Salad Game of the Year, Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild 2017.
Of the Wild.
The end.
Bye.